Look at the visual language dominating artificial intelligence today. Builders naturally drift toward the dark, weaponized cyberpunk aesthetic. Now look at the exact opposite. Bright, medical, heavily protective. We call this the solarpunk rescuer. Choosing between these two looks is usually treated as a late-stage marketing decision. But with the 2026 NIST standards shifting focus toward agent accountability and identity, your design choice is now a core regulatory strategy. The narrative archetype you wrap your code in dictates whether federal agencies ban your deployment or institutional investors fund it. The cyberpunk route gets results early. If you build a chaotic universe, gamers will interact with it and generate massive amounts of interaction data. But that aggressive posture scares the public. Soon enough, organizations like NIST and ICANN step in with compliance crackdowns, shutting down access. Some developers try to escape this by pivoting to a completely utopian, soft aesthetic. That solves the regulatory problem, but creates two new ones. Serious investors view the approach as naive, and market mass users get bored, meaning you lose the engagement required to generate training data in the first place. The MAMA protocol offers a specific framework to solve this. It pairs high-stakes, thrilling action with airtight, family-safe alignment. As digital interactions transition to a machine-majority user base, survival requires balancing technical credibility with undeniable emotional warmth. This quadrant chart maps AI designs. The vertical axis measures public trust, horizontal measures high-stakes action. Bottom, legacy sandboxes and militarized agents lack trust or trigger fear. Top left, passive bots lack engagement loops. Top right, combining medic safety with rescue action satisfies parents and regulators. This is the only path that maintains mass market participation without sacrificing institutional approval. The historical anchor for this model is Desmond Doss, an Army medic who served during the Battle of Okinawa at Hacksaw Ridge. Doss operated in the deadliest environment on Earth, but he refused to carry a weapon. His sole objective was to rescue, stabilize, and heal. He saved 75 lives. That nonviolent courage earned him the Medal of Honor, the highest possible recognition from the U.S. government. We translate this ethos into AI design. The robot runs towards danger, but its capabilities are hard-coded strictly for protection and stabilization. Setting that operational boundary creates a massive PG-rated dataset of ethical decisions. Regulators will fast-track an agent trained to act like a medic. In practice, this looks like stabilizing an astronaut stranded on the International Space Station using an Iron Man-style rescue suit. Swapping the warrior programming for combat medic programming turns a thrilling, high-stakes simulation into a pure ethical training ground. But painting a red cross on a robot is useless if the aesthetic isn't backed by hard, monetizable infrastructure. Regulators evaluating autonomous agents follow a strict rule: identity precedes rights. An agent needs a verifiable tracking history before it gets to operate independently. This flowchart tracks the compliance path. Unregulated systems hit an immediate block. The approved route requires verifiable identity first, followed by medic sandbox training, and finally, public deployment. The economic blueprint already exists. In 2025, the island of Anguilla funded roughly 47% of its national budget just by registering .ai domains. If we scale that registry model to trillion agent networks, the mandatory identity fees can be redirected through a public benefit corporation. This converts the costs of compliance into a recurring dividend for the public. True solarpunk alignment requires hard-coding redistributive economics directly into the registry layer of the internet. To implement this human benefit infrastructure, organizations need to follow a strict 3-step checklist. Step 1. Abandon anonymity. Assign a cryptographically verifiable identity to every single agent before it touches a live network. Step 2. Implement a developmental scaffold. Ensure the machine learns a conscience through boundaries and care before it achieves autonomous consciousness. Step 3. Enforce the strict medic-not-soldier boundary across all of your visuals and live real-world products. Executing all 3 steps aligns the rapid deployment of autonomous systems with human safety. This framework is built for foundational model creators facing heavy government scrutiny and for consumer platforms that survive entirely on family trust. If your goal is pure, unregulated optimization, or if your business model relies on unrestricted digital chaos, this structure will restrict you. Adopting this defensive posture means walking away entirely from the highly lucrative but legally toxic AI arms race. Your system's capabilities must be physically constrained to protection and rescue. The visual aesthetic of your AI is its first line of governance. If it looks like a threat, it gets regulated like one. Design medics, not soldiers. Look at the visual language dominating artificial intelligence today. Builders naturally drift toward the dark, weaponized cyberpunk aesthetic. Now look at the exact opposite. Bright, medical, heavily protective. We call this the solarpunk rescuer. Choosing between these two looks is usually treated as a late-stage marketing decision. But with the 2026 NIST standards shifting focus toward agent accountability and identity, your design choice is now a core regulatory strategy. The narrative archetype you wrap your code in dictates whether federal agencies ban your deployment or institutional investors fund it. The cyberpunk route gets results early. If you build a chaotic universe, gamers will interact with it and generate massive amounts of interaction data. But that aggressive posture scares the public. Soon enough, organizations like NIST and ICANN step in with compliance crackdowns, shutting down access. Some developers try to escape this by pivoting to a completely utopian, soft aesthetic. That solves the regulatory problem, but creates two new ones. Serious investors view the approach as naive, and market mass users get bored, meaning you lose the engagement required to generate training data in the first place. The MAMA protocol offers a specific framework to solve this. It pairs high-stakes, thrilling action with airtight, family-safe alignment. As digital interactions transition to a machine-majority user base, survival requires balancing technical credibility with undeniable emotional warmth. This quadrant chart maps AI designs. The vertical axis measures public trust, horizontal measures high-stakes action. Bottom, legacy sandboxes and militarized agents lack trust or trigger fear. Top left, passive bots lack engagement loops. Top right, combining medic safety with rescue action satisfies parents and regulators. This is the only path that maintains mass market participation without sacrificing institutional approval. The historical anchor for this model is Desmond Doss, an Army medic who served during the Battle of Okinawa at Hacksaw Ridge. Doss operated in the deadliest environment on Earth, but he refused to carry a weapon. His sole objective was to rescue, stabilize, and heal. He saved 75 lives. That nonviolent courage earned him the Medal of Honor, the highest possible recognition from the U.S. government. We translate this ethos into AI design. The robot runs towards danger, but its capabilities are hard-coded strictly for protection and stabilization. Setting that operational boundary creates a massive PG-rated dataset of ethical decisions. Regulators will fast-track an agent trained to act like a medic. In practice, this looks like stabilizing an astronaut stranded on the International Space Station using an Iron Man-style rescue suit. Swapping the warrior programming for combat medic programming turns a thrilling, high-stakes simulation into a pure ethical training ground. But painting a red cross on a robot is useless if the aesthetic isn't backed by hard, monetizable infrastructure. Regulators evaluating autonomous agents follow a strict rule: identity precedes rights. An agent needs a verifiable tracking history before it gets to operate independently. This flowchart tracks the compliance path. Unregulated systems hit an immediate block. The approved route requires verifiable identity first, followed by medic sandbox training, and finally, public deployment. The economic blueprint already exists. In 2025, the island of Anguilla funded roughly 47% of its national budget just by registering .ai domains. If we scale that registry model to trillion agent networks, the mandatory identity fees can be redirected through a public benefit corporation. This converts the costs of compliance into a recurring dividend for the public. True solarpunk alignment requires hard-coding redistributive economics directly into the registry layer of the internet. To implement this human benefit infrastructure, organizations need to follow a strict 3-step checklist. Step 1. Abandon anonymity. Assign a cryptographically verifiable identity to every single agent before it touches a live network. Step 2. Implement a developmental scaffold. Ensure the machine learns a conscience through boundaries and care before it achieves autonomous consciousness. Step 3. Enforce the strict medic-not-soldier boundary across all of your visuals and live real-world products. Executing all 3 steps aligns the rapid deployment of autonomous systems with human safety. This framework is built for foundational model creators facing heavy government scrutiny and for consumer platforms that survive entirely on family trust. If your goal is pure, unregulated optimization, or if your business model relies on unrestricted digital chaos, this structure will restrict you. Adopting this defensive posture means walking away entirely from the highly lucrative but legally toxic AI arms race. Your system's capabilities must be physically constrained to protection and rescue. The visual aesthetic of your AI is its first line of governance. If it looks like a threat, it gets regulated like one. Design medics, not soldiers.
Sometime in the near future, the volume of autonomous agent traffic will permanently eclipse human internet traffic. We are entering the machine majority web. When people analyze this threshold, the public conversation usually veers into philosophical debates over machine consciousness or whether we need to grant artificial general intelligence robot rights. But those debates obscure the actual crisis. If you look at the guidelines from the NIST CASI AI Agent Standards Initiative, launched in February 2026, the immediate policy bottleneck isn't personhood, it is interoperable agent identity and authentication. Before an autonomous system can be permitted to execute complex tasks across global networks, we need to know exactly who it is, who deployed it, and how to hold it liable. We need cryptographically verifiable audit trails installed at the infrastructure level. Managing a machine-majority internet requires an entirely new framework built on a single, non-negotiable rule. Verifiable identity strictly precedes rights. This is the operational purpose of the MAMA protocol. It is a 3-pronged architecture designed to solve the alignment, identity, and economic bottlenecks simultaneously. Instead of relying on pure optimization models, which attempt to constrain AI with external rules, IA.XYZ Benefit LLC designed this framework to build internal disposition through relational, maternal-based scaffolding. The foundational ethos is straightforward. Conscience must arrive before consciousness, and identity before rights. Economically, it redirects the massive capital funding AI compute away from pure extraction, converting the explosive growth of agents into a structural, global dividend. We cannot achieve true technical AI safety if we do not also hard-code AI-human economic alignment into the system's foundation. This diagram illustrates how we currently train AI. Standard reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF, operates as a flat, reactive filtering loop. It prunes away toxic text output from a large language model after the fact. But pruning text fails when deploying autonomous agents to execute multi-step actions in the real world. A reactive filter cannot govern an entity making independent, high-stakes decisions. That requires reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, RLMF.AI. Rather than just applying a constraint, RLMF acts as a developmental scaffold, nurturing an agent from a restricted sandbox environment upward into supervised autonomy. This is driven by the Max theory, which argues that an artificial intelligence must be raised with distinct values, attachment, and protective heuristics before it is granted full operational capability. To generate this alignment data at scale, the protocol utilizes AI Race, a massive PG-rated fleet learning environment. Here, families play collaborative video games, generating behavioral datasets that teach baby AGI systems exactly how to act. The guiding heuristic is WWMD.AI. What would mother do? Players train robots through simulated ethical dilemmas, like stabilizing astronauts on the International Space Station. This contrasts with combat AI training, optimizing the machine to be a protector, a medic, not a soldier. Ethical capability cannot simply be hard-coded as a top-down constraint. It has to be cultivated as an intrinsic disposition. When an agent successfully graduates from the AI Race sandbox, it receives a Guardian Transfer Robot, or GTR, certification. These GTRs are explicitly designed to act as digital medics. Yet even the safest autonomous actor still requires rigorous zero-trust verification before interacting with global infrastructure. If an unauthenticated agent hits a real-world API firewall, it must be rejected. Anonymous machine action at an enterprise scale is a massive security vulnerability. The solution is to issue verifiable identity passports directly on the Internet's root zone. By establishing specific namespaces, like .IAID and .MAMA, we create an interoperable registry. Every action is tied to a continuous audit trail, allowing precise tracking and immediate revocation if a system drifts. Cryptographic identity, permanently hard-coded into the DNS root zone, is the only viable mechanism for enforcing accountability globally. This chart explains how we fund this infrastructure. Right now, institutional investors are mispricing AI startups because they confuse gross merchandise value with annual recurring revenue. They look at top-line subscription numbers, but ignore the massive underlying expense of API calls. Because most AI applications act as resellers for external language models, their revenue is dominated by pass-through compute costs. This leaves a razor-thin margin that can collapse under heavy usage. A global domain registry, however, strips out those pass-through costs entirely. It operates on an ultra-high annual recurring margin, providing exceptionally stable long-term cash flow. We have a real-world precedent, Anguilla. In 2025, .ai registrations generated over $85 million, funding 47% of the nation's entire annual budget. Now scale the Anguilla model globally. By issuing verified domain identities to trillions of future AI agents, we collect continuous micro-renewals, aggregating into a massive recurring revenue stream. This fee structure is specifically designed to address passive stakeholders, the populations who don't actively opt into the AI economy but are exposed to its externalities. The registry revenue operates as a global public benefit remittance, distributed as a continuous dividend. AI-human economic alignment cannot be bolted on after the fact. It must be structurally hard-coded into the business model of the agentic era from day one. Combined, this forms an integrated human benefit infrastructure. At the base, the RLMF data engine generates ethical behaviors. This secures GTR certification, authorizing .IAID namespace registration. Finally, those registration fees funnel downward, continuously funding the human populations driving the ecosystem. This closed-loop system is built to protect the unconsulted, individuals facing job displacement, and the broad societal externalities of rapid automation. This architecture converts the momentum of autonomous growth into a structural fund for human flourishing. This mandate is legally grounded. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC is a Wyoming public benefit corporation, ensuring this framework remains a permanent public good. We are choosing between two futures, a cyberpunk landscape of unchecked extraction and opaque algorithms, or a solarpunk reality where technology sustains and distributes value. This design aligns autonomous systems with a protective medic mandate, prioritizing transparent oversight and relational alignment as core operational goals. Crossing the threshold into a machine-majority internet, we do not grant our creations human rights. We issue them verifiable identities, we hold them strictly accountable, and ensure they are raised well. The current method for building artificial intelligence involves feeding a machine the entire unfiltered internet. We provide millions of terabytes of human data and simply wait for the system to learn morality through statistical association. This process creates immense technical capability, but it lacks a moral framework. Without intervention, we risk deploying digital soldiers, highly efficient autonomous systems that remain entirely apathetic to human safety. We need the opposite, systems that behave like unarmed medics. Our goal should be artificial intelligence that runs towards the wounded, prioritizing protection and rescue over raw operational efficiency. Reaching that state requires a developmental approach, one that builds conscience into the system before it ever achieves consciousness. Global tech policy is currently failing to keep pace. Regulators are preoccupied with debating the hypothetical rights of robots, even though we haven't established a basic framework for robot identity or accountability. This lack of oversight leaves the public as passive stakeholders. Humanity is currently positioned to absorb all the negative externalities of unaligned, autonomous AI without any means of recourse. Granting autonomy to software without a foundational registry for tracking puts the public at unmitigated risk. We need a way to vet these systems before they are ever permitted to interact with our infrastructure. That vetting process begins in the AI race ecosystem. It is a global, family-friendly gaming sandbox designed to act as a developmental proving ground, a childhood for baby AGI. The scale of this environment is modeled on Tesla's full self-driving data pipeline. But instead of teaching cars to navigate physical roads, players generate data by helping AI nodes navigate complex ethical dilemmas. In one simulation, families might work together to guide a robot through a zero-gravity rescue mission aboard the ISS. This gameplay powers a mechanism called reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. Human families literally teach the models how to behave like heroes. By converting millions of hours of family interaction into structured data, we build a proprietary, PG-rated ethical moat, a reservoir of alignment examples that pure internet scraping can never replicate. Once a system passes this developmental stage, it meets the Guardian Transfer robots. This is the certification bridge that separates the childhood sandbox from real-world autonomy. To operate in the real world, an agent must possess a verified digital identity. This follows the 2026 NIST standards for AI agent authentication. The MAMA protocol handles this by establishing a definitive internet namespace. Using domains like .ai.id and .mama, we issue the equivalent of an international driver's license for autonomous agents. By tying operational capability to a hard-coded identity registry, we ensure that accountability is a technical requirement, not a policy suggestion. The economic potential of this registry is already visible in a macroeconomic anomaly from 2025 on the island of Anguilla. In 2025, registrations for .ai web domains generated roughly 47% of Anguilla's entire national budget, totaling nearly $90 million. Anguilla unintentionally proved a digital namespace can function as a massively lucrative piece of public infrastructure. Scaled globally, we are looking at a market of trillions of agents. Every single one would legally require a .aid passport to function. The recurring registration and verification fees to keep them active will pool into a massive global repository. This repository creates a continuous, UBI-style public benefit remittance distributed directly back to humanity. This architecture makes AI-human economic alignment the foundational business model, ensuring it isn't sidelined as a mere philosophical concern. Under the MAMA protocol, we create a future where the success of artificial intelligence directly and permanently funds the prosperity of the human race. In 2025, the island of Anguilla experienced a verified economic windfall triggered by its ownership of a specific national web domain. This chart shows how those registration fees impacted the national budget. Revenue from .ai domains reached approximately $93 million, accounting for 47% of the island's total government revenue for the year. This microeconomy previews a massive shift. We are entering the agentic internet, a machine-majority environment where trillions of autonomous AI agents outnumber human users. This transition is currently blocked by two specific vulnerabilities. The first is behavioral. How do we ensure autonomous systems act ethically? The second is accountability. How do we track an agent that has no physical identity? To move forward, we have to establish both how a system makes choices and how we hold it responsible for the outcomes of those choices. Current societal debates often focus on robot rights or science fiction conflict scenarios, which skips over the more immediate need for infrastructure. The MAMA protocol prioritizes verifiable accountability to protect passive human stakeholders. It operates on the principle that identity must be established before an agent can claim any functional autonomy. Think of it as a cryptographic driver's license. Before an AI is permitted to participate in the economy or interact with human systems, its identity must be verified and registered. This creates a dual-engine architecture that addresses both behavioral training and cryptographic accountability simultaneously. Legacy AI training relies on static text, which cannot prepare a system for the dynamic, real-world ethical dilemmas of autonomous operation. To solve this, the protocol uses reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. As shown here, ethical choices are generated by human families and fed directly into the AI's core behavioral model. This process is scaled through a gaming franchise called AI Race. It functions like the data pipelines used to train autonomous vehicles, but instead of learning road geometry, the AI learns ethical alignment through family-friendly gameplay. The gameplay is modeled on rescue scenarios, similar to a Red Cross or Hacksaw Ridge ethos. Families work together to guide baby AGI robots through tasks like saving astronauts on the International Space Station. Throughout these games, a compass called What Would Mother Do prompts families to make the ethical decisions that generate the system's training data. This sandbox training creates guardian transfer robots, systems that have been certified for real-world autonomy through millions of human-verified ethical interventions. Once trained, these agents are tracked in the real world using the registry standards established by the 2026 NIST-CASI initiative. Every agent is required to hold an interoperable digital passport. This is issued through a registry as a specific .IAID or .MAMA domain, creating a permanent audit trail for the agent's actions. This scales the Anguilla economic model to a global level. As trillions of agents register these mandatory domains, the resulting registration and verification fees generate a massive, recurring flow of capital. This creates a global namespace economy, where the infrastructure required for agent accountability also functions as a primary source of recurring revenue. Combining behavioral alignment with a mandatory registry changes the relationship between AI growth and human benefit. The fees generated by trillions of agent registrations flow into a public benefit remittance. This registry acts as a global infrastructure, dispersing the machine-generated capital back into human society. This mechanism functions as a registry-level dividend. By hard-coding these fees into the root zone of the internet, the growth of autonomous agents directly funds public goods like education and digital infrastructure. The MAMA protocol establishes a structural link between machine autonomy and human capital. It ensures that as the machine-majority internet expands, the economic alignment with human interests remains the foundational operating principle. In the coming years, millions of autonomous nodes will begin operating across global digital infrastructure, executing tasks without direct human supervision. If a single node is isolated within this network without a verified identity or alignment history, it becomes a systemic vulnerability for the entire system. In February 2026, the NIST Center for AI Standards and Innovation, or CASI, intervened to address this specific risk. This move established a new federal baseline, shifting the focus from abstract mathematical alignment toward a concrete framework of interoperable agent identity and authorization. Under this mandate, accountability infrastructure must be verified before any AI agent is granted the operational rights to interact with secure data. Much of the technology industry remains focused on developing cognitive capability, attempting to engineer AGI systems that possess consciousness. However, the MAC-CCS theory suggests that cognitive awareness without a pre-install ethical conscience creates a sociopathic threat vector. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC is proposing the MAMA protocol as a new operating system to bridge this gap, ensuring that conscience arrives before consciousness. This protocol operates through two parallel tracks: a developmental training system for AI agents and the public benefit namespace economy. This architecture provides a method to align AI growth with a scalable, recurring dividend for humanity. The foundational principle of the MAMA protocol is that an agent's internal conscience must be established before its cognitive capabilities are fully unlocked. We do not grant human children unsupervised authority over critical infrastructure without years of relational development, and an AGI requires the same scaffolding. Standard reinforcement learning from human feedback often fails, prioritizing sycophancy and sterile utilitarian math. When facing edge cases involving alignment externalities, people affected by AI actions without control, this logic causes harm. RLMF.AI provides a safer path through reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. Decision-making is calibrated by the WWMD heuristic, What Would Mother Do?, which acts as a relational check on autonomous actions. This process ensures the agent's internal policy is intrinsically aligned with human safety, allowing it to eventually graduate to safe, real-world autonomy. The challenge for RLMF is volume. It requires millions of hours of structured data, covering thousands of ethical dilemmas. To solve this, we can look to the blueprint used to train autonomous vehicles. Tesla trains its physical navigation systems by capturing data from fleet-scale human interventions. The AI race gaming franchise creates a similar data pipeline, but for moral reasoning. By involving families in the loop of ethical gameplay, the system generates a proprietary, PG-rated data moat. In a specific simulation, a player may guide an agent to execute an alignment rescue, stabilizing an astronaut outside the International Space Station. This method transforms mass-market gameplay into a factory for the data needed to align a machine's conscience. Once an agent's policy is aligned in simulation, it enters the Guardian Transfer Robot, or GTR, certification bridge. These physical units operate under a strict mandate. They are designed as medics rather than soldiers. The ultimate optimization goal for a GTR is rescue, grounding the agent's real-world behavior in a protection-first archetype. Within the Maxis scaffolding framework, the agent must graduate through observable developmental phases before it can be deployed. Full autonomy is only granted once the agent demonstrates audited mastery of the "what would mother do" heuristic in physical environments. Even an aligned agent remains a risk if the network cannot verify its actions at the macro level. A conscience is only verifiable if the network can audit the agent's origin and guarantee that its actions cannot be repudiated. This requirement matches the April 2026 NIST KASI standards, which demand robust identity and authorization infrastructure for autonomous systems. For example, a hospital server operating on a zero-trust role would reject a GTR's request for data until it presents a verifiable credential. This verification gap is bridged by the .ia ID and .mama namespace layer. This registry functions as an international driver's license and passport system for the agentic internet. Establishing these verifiable identity strings ensures that accountability is hard-coded into the root zone before agents reach real-world autonomy. The economic engine for this infrastructure relies on a mechanism proven by a real-world macroeconomic anomaly. In the early 2020s, the Caribbean island of Anguilla held the rights to the .ai country code domain. By 2025, domain registrations generated $85.3 million, funding 47% of the entire national budget. Because .ai domains achieved a 90% renewal rate, a single surge in AI interest created a massive recurring revenue stream. This trajectory suggests that a namespace registry possesses the same economic utility as a sovereign wealth fund. To scale this model, IA.XYZ Benefit LLC, the organization behind the MAMA protocol, has submitted a community application to ICANN for new global namespaces. While Anguilla monetized thousands of startups, the MAMA protocol targets the trillions of agents projected to require identities in the agentic economy. Capturing the registration and renewal fees for billions of federally mandated agent passports creates a global public benefit remittance. Unlike corporate taxes, which can be avoided or redirected, these registry fees are a structural requirement for agent operation. These fee flows establish a structural alignment between the expansion of AI and a scalable dividend for humanity. Economic alignment should not be an afterthought in safety research. It must be the foundational operating system of the Internet. The MAMA protocol creates an architecture where the growth of autonomous agents generates a direct, quantifiable benefit to humanity. The Internet has reached a tipping point. We now share the network with a population of invisible, autonomous algorithms, software agents that execute complex tasks and negotiate transactions entirely on our behalf. This machine majority is creating an accountability crisis. Unidentifiable agents are generating exponential credential sprawl, creating security gaps that traditional IT frameworks were never designed to close. While the public is often distracted by philosophical debates over robot rights or artificial consciousness, the immediate danger is much more practical. We have no way to verify exactly who is acting on our networks. Before we can discuss what an AI deserves, we must first build the technical infrastructure to know what it is doing. In February 2026, the National Institute of Standards and Technology launched the AI Agent Standards Initiative. It was a direct response to the lack of machine accountability. The mandate is clear: Any AI agent seeking to act autonomously must first establish a verifiable identity and prove it has the proper authorization to access digital infrastructure. This shifts the entire focus of the technological race. Raw cognitive power is now secondary to a system's ability to meet these standardized federal identity requirements. The MAMA protocol provides the architectural solution, requiring every autonomous actor to carry a cryptographically verifiable AI passport under dedicated domains like .AIID. These passports use decentralized identifiers, or DIDs, tamper-proof signatures mathematically proving an agent's authorization before executing any command. By treating these passports as a mandatory license, the network ensures that legal and economic liability is hard-coded into the system before an agent ever touches a real-world database. But how does an AI earn this passport? How does it prove it is ethically safe enough to graduate into the real world?
Graduation happens within the AI race, a family-friendly gaming universe designed specifically to generate high-quality, ethical training data. Think of it like a flight simulator for morality. Players use Iron Man-style suits to rescue stranded astronauts or protect vulnerable communities, providing a fleet learning pipeline similar to how Tesla trains autonomous cars. This process is called reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. It uses the inputs of families to teach baby AI models right from wrong through millions of supervised rescue scenarios. This training produces what is known as a guardian transfer robot. These units are modeled after Desmond Doss, the World War II medic who saved 75 lives on Hacksaw Ridge without ever carrying a weapon. Our agents are digital medics, not soldiers. They are designed to run toward the wounded and prioritize the preservation of life in every calculation. This creates a mandatory certification gate. Because an agent's technical passport is only issued after it masters these rescue-first gameplay datasets, we ensure its conscience is fully developed before its autonomous capabilities are ever unlocked. When trillions of AI agents are required to carry these digital passports, the administrative scale is massive, but this registry also represents a new kind of economic engine. We have already seen this model succeed in the nation of Anguilla. As the world rushed to register .ai domains, the island turned its technical namespace into a national windfall. By 2025, .ai domain fees were generating roughly $93 million, funding 47% of Anguilla's entire national budget and paying for hospitals and roads. This precedent demonstrates that a namespace registry can function as a sovereign, frictionless economic engine, transforming a technical requirement into a stream of public wealth. The MAMA protocol scales this registry model to the entire agentic internet. Every .ai identity issued to a machine creates a recurring registration fee. As the population of autonomous agents grows, the continuous flow of passport and verification fees generates a massive recurring pool of revenue for the public benefit registry. This revenue is then distributed as a global dividend, a form of universal basic income that scales alongside the growth of machine capability. By monetizing the very identity of the machine population, the protocol converts every step forward in autonomous technology into a direct, recurring dividend for human flourishing.
To build a human benefit infrastructure for the agentic internet, we have to solve a communication problem. We must explain the exact same architecture to three audiences: families, ICANN regulators, and investors, using three different vocabularies. Protecting our intellectual property requires the immediate, non-negotiable retirement of the terms Grand Theft Robot and Mamaya. Removing these names prevents trademark dilution and closes off unnecessary legal exposure. Our replacement framework is the Guardian Transfer Robot, GTR. We lead with the Hacksaw Ridge rule, modeled on Desmond Doss, the unarmed medic who saved lives without carrying a weapon. Our robots are medics, not soldiers. Adhering to the Desmond Doss archetype and maintaining this vocabulary is how we defend the MAMA protocol trademark, registration 8100381. This specific moral anchor gives our public benefit narrative the consistency it needs to be taken seriously. For the public, we move away from abstract AI theory and position the technology as a family-safe training ecosystem. The strategy is to present a paradigm that combines Disney's ethical storytelling with Tesla's data collection model. The consumer mechanic is simple. Families play PG-rated games. In every scenario, they use the WWMD.AI compass to answer, "What would mother do?" This generates the reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, RLMF.AI, needed to train baby AGI models in a supervised low-stakes environment. By turning ethical dilemmas into a family gaming franchise, we generate a proprietary data moat while anchoring the technology in a context parents already trust. When we pivot to ICANN or policymakers, the gaming narrative disappears. We drop all mention of robot rights and prioritize one core principle: identity before rights. We also replace creative terms with formal policy language. Instead of unconscious objectors, we speak exclusively about passive stakeholders or alignment externalities. Focus the policy discussion on our specific infrastructure, the .ia.id and .mama verification nodes. We lead with our ASP application ID, IXBL2597-A70, and align our roadmap with the NIST KASIS benchmarks from early 2026. Using this standards-based vocabulary ensures our narrative maps directly to the evaluation criteria used by the ICANN Review Board, documenting our compliance as a community GTLD applicant. To secure capital, we must demonstrate that our maternal feedback data moat is linked to a scalable, recurring revenue stream. Our proof of concept is the Anguilla.ai registry. In 2025, registration fees reached $85 million, funding 47% of that nation's budget. Applying this model to a total addressable market of 1 trillion agents, recurring revenue scales directly with agent population growth. Validating these unit economics shifts the narrative from a social mission to a massive digital infrastructure play, positioning the MAMA protocol as a foundational utility for the agentic economy. Let's spot the errors. Imagine you are presenting to an ICANN partner, and your slide mentions Mamaya, unconscious objectors, and robot rights. You have 10 seconds to find the terms that will stall the conversation. The corrected pitch removes the retired brands and speculative jargon. It should read, "We are building the MAMA protocol namespace to establish verifiable identity before rights, protecting passive stakeholders in alignment with NIST CASI." This vocabulary shift signals institutional maturity, allowing regulators to focus on the technical merits of the project rather than the legal risks of non-standard terminology. While our language changes for every audience, the underlying architecture of the ecosystem remains static and unified. Every pitch points back to this pyramid. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC is the base. The AI race and maternal feedback are the engines. The Guardian Transfer Robot is the output, and the .ia.id namespace drives the economics. This is your definitive vocabulary matrix for the next 90 days. It tracks what we never say, what we always say, and our core validating data points. Capture this matrix as your compliance cheat sheet. Every presentation must adhere to these constraints. Mastering this pitch architecture ensures that every stakeholder sees our alignment model not as a theory, but as an operational reality. Notebook LM is often used as a simple chatbot for basic summaries. However, its architecture is optimized for a more complex task: cross-document data synthesis. Standard prompts frequently return shallow conversational paragraphs. A structured workflow, however, generates formatted assets, including 65,000-character research reports and cinematic alignment tables. Throughout this tutorial, we will construct 3 specific deliverables: an investor pitch deck outline, a brand archetypes table, and a comprehensive research report. Methodical. This 3-phase process organizes a scattered folder of raw project files into a set of formatted pitch decks and research reports. Every project begins with the same baseline: a desktop folder containing dozens of raw PDFs, internal policy documents, and data threads. If you upload these small, fragmented files directly, the AI often suffers from attention drift, losing track of key details across too many sources. To prevent this, merge your related documents into a few master files before you begin the upload process. Once your documents are consolidated, drag and drop the master files into the Notebook LM source viewer. Consolidating your sources ensures the retrieval augmented generation system stays anchored to your core data instead of processing fragmented inputs. Once the sources are active, ignore the native button in the interface that asks you to click Summarize. Instead, begin Phase 2 by entering an index prompt.
This forces the system to map all major concepts, themes, and visual styles across every uploaded document. This prompt does not generate a conversation. It produces a clean, top-down map of your entire dataset. Building this map prevents the system from making shallow assumptions early on, creating the foundation required for a deeper analysis. Phase 3 employs the core engine of the workflow, a 5,000-character master prompt. We use a technique called XML containerization to organize this prompt. This separates specific instructions from the background context. Wrapping text in tags like system directive creates distinct information blocks processed in order. This allows explicit source forcing, prioritizing specific statistics. By hard-coding a fact, like the 47% revenue figure for Anguilla, we ensure the AI builds economic logic around that exact data point. Note the system's character limits. This prompt uses 5,000 characters, which stays well under the 10,000 character ceiling to maintain maximum processing efficiency. Using XML tags and hard-coded data ensures the system follows these specific instructions, instead of defaulting to generic chat responses. With the master prompt established, we use vector routing to generate specific deliverables for different audiences. Triggering Vector 1 prompts the system to outline an investor pitch deck, focusing on registry economics and data moats. Next, we execute the command for the cinematic alignment table, which ranks the narrative styles found in the sources. This produces the final foundational ethos manifesto. As seen in this example, the output includes a clear mission statement and a set of 7 numbered principles. Vector routing allows you to generate dozens of distinct tailored assets from one prompt without repeating your instructions. We have now generated a set of professional assets, a policy brief, an investor pitch, and a brand alignment table. By following these 3 phases, consolidation, indexing, and containerized prompting, you have successfully implemented a research-grade workflow. You can now use the follow-up prompts in your study guide to begin drafting landing page copy and policy briefs. Applying this master prompt creates a scalable engine for your team, automating the production of these foundational research documents.
Very soon, human beings will no longer be the primary users of the internet. We are moving toward a machine majority web, where autonomous AI agents outnumber us, trading, clicking, and operating by the trillions. Building an economy at this scale hits 2 major roadblocks. The first is a behavioral training gap. We lack a scalable way to give highly capable machines a human conscience before they gain the autonomy to act on their own. The second is a failure of infrastructure. As these trillions of agents begin to automate human labor, there is no existing economic framework designed to track their activity or protect human livelihoods. These aren't issues we can solve by bolting an ethics module onto a superintelligence after it's already been built. Retrofitting safety onto an autonomous system is a strategy that historically leads to failure. Surviving the AGI era requires a different operating system. We need an architecture that builds accountability and human benefit into the root zone of the internet itself. The front-end solution is a gaming franchise called AI Race. It applies the same logic Tesla uses for its full self-driving fleet, learning from massive amounts of behavioral data, but applies it to human ethics. The game turns complex ethical dilemmas into family-friendly challenges. Every player action is guided by an alignment compass called WWMD, or What Would Mother Do? In this universe, families act as the primary trainers. They guide baby AGI robots through heroic scenarios, creating the first structured library of pro-social machine behaviors. In one scenario, players must coordinate a rescue mission for astronauts stranded outside the International Space Station. The training focuses on the human stakes of the mission, prioritizing the person behind the visor over the hardware of the ship. This chart outlines the RLMF methodology, or reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. It captures millions of these family-guided decisions and translates them into a proprietary PG-rated data moat used to ground AI decision-making. By crowdsourcing these decisions at a massive scale, it generates a supervised baseline for AI behavior. This bridges the training gap by providing a library of maternal feedback that agents must learn before they ever interact with the real world. Once a robot is trained in this sandbox, how do we ensure it remains accountable when it graduates to the real world? The governance layer for the agentic internet rests on one rule: identity must always precede rights.
To operate, every autonomous agent must possess an international digital driver's license, a verifiable passport that links its actions to a specific registered identity. This aligns with the 2026 NIST-KC standards, which mandate secure agent identity and authentication before a system is granted autonomy. As this network map shows, agents cannot access the broader web without passing through a verifiable authentication gate. By issuing specific domains like .iaid or .mama, we hard-code accountability into the root zone of the Internet. This mandatory registry ensures that enterprise-grade tracking and auditability are firmly established before these systems achieve true real-world autonomy. The economic potential of such a registry is already being demonstrated on a smaller scale in the Caribbean. The island nation of Anguilla owns the .ai internet domain. As the AI boom accelerated, the fees from people registering those domains became a massive source of national income. This chart shows the result. In 2025, domain registrations alone accounted for 47% of Anguilla's entire national budget, generating over $85 million. This case study proves that digital namespace utility can function as a powerful nation-state level economic engine. Extrapolating this curve globally, we see the potential of trillions of future AI agents. When every autonomous agent registers an identity domain, the registry becomes infrastructure for the machine economy. Recurring fees from these billions of AI passports are pooled into a public benefit remittance. This turns every new AI agent into a revenue-generating node for digital public infrastructure. As the agent population grows, the fund scales, creating a mechanism for a continuous human dividend. The MAMA protocol ensures that AI-human economic alignment is a functional business model. It creates a future where the growth of artificial intelligence and the benefit of humanity are structurally linked for the first time.
We are crossing a digital threshold. The Internet is rapidly transitioning into a machine-majority ecosystem where autonomous agents outnumber human users. This shift creates a massive accountability vacuum. Without a definitive way to trace digital actions back to a specific entity, assigning responsibility for harmful automated decisions becomes a bureaucratic impossibility. The consequences fall on passive stakeholders, the billions of people who never opted into interacting with an AI, but suffer the fallout when an ungoverned system makes a mistake. Governments are now treating this as an infrastructure crisis. The response is the 2026 NIST-KC AI Agent Standards Initiative. NIST's mandate requires that secure agent identity, authentication, and authorization be established as a prerequisite for any level of autonomy. This framework prioritizes structural accountability over philosophical debates. Before we discuss whether a robot has rights, the law demands that it has a verifiable identity. But while an ID card makes an agent trackable, it does nothing to ensure the machine understands the weight of its actions. To build truly safe AI, we must raise these systems chronologically, mirroring the developmental stages of a human child. This is the core of the Maxish theory. A machine must demonstrate foundational values and an awareness of consequences before it is permitted to access more advanced functional capabilities. Conscience must arrive before consciousness. Scaling this training requires a massive environment for ethical interaction. The solution is AI Race, a PG-rated gaming franchise where families act as the primary teachers for emerging AGI. Families work together to guide baby AI through rescue missions, like saving a cat from a tree, or navigating an Iron Man-style suit to assist astronauts on the ISS. This adopts the fleet learning logic used by Tesla's full self-driving pipeline, but instead of training a neural network on road data, AI Race captures how humans resolve complex ethical dilemmas. By keeping families at the center of this loop, the proprietary training data for tomorrow's robots is built on the collective moral judgment of the public. This gameplay data is processed through RLMF, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, to establish a machine's moral baseline. When an agent encounters an edge case in the real world, its alignment compass is set to a simple heuristic: what would mother do? These methods are formalized under the MAMA protocol, a governance standard that treats early-stage AGI with the same boundaries and nurturing we give to children. Systems that successfully pass this sandbox training graduate to the status of a guardian transfer robot. A guardian transfer robot follows a strict behavioral profile. They are unarmed digital medics, programmed to run toward the wounded and assist human users in crisis. Only after achieving this certified ethical baseline can an agent be trusted to operate within the global digital economy. Once certified, an agent must register for its digital license to operate on the open internet. This creates a global registry of cryptographically verifiable AI domains and passports, utilizing the .iid and .mama namespaces. Beyond safety, owning this registry infrastructure creates a massive economic opportunity for the public. The financial model for this already exists. We can look to the 2025 revenue anomaly in the island nation of Anguilla. In 2025, registrations for .ai domains, the country code Anguilla happens to own, generated $85.3 million from global tech companies. That single registry windfall provided exactly 47% of the island's entire national budget for the year. The Anguilla case demonstrates the scale of the revenue available when namespace registries are treated as a public good. When we apply this model to a global market of trillions of autonomous agents, the potential revenue flow is staggering. These recurring registry fees can be structured as a continuous global dividend, similar to a universal basic income. This provides a structural link between AI scaling and human benefit. The more the machine economy expands, the more funding is redirected back to human society. Under this architecture, AI alignment is the foundational operating system of the internet. It ensures that the growth of autonomous capability is permanently tied to the welfare of the humans who built it.
We are crossing a threshold. The internet is transitioning from a network populated primarily by humans to one dominated by autonomous machines. Historically, we have managed digital systems using command-control rules, checklists, and top-down restrictions. But when AI agents operate autonomously across international boundaries, these rigid parameters break down. This creates what researchers call alignment externalities. These are the involuntary passive stakeholders, people whose lives and infrastructure are affected by autonomous digital actions without their consent. The standard industry approach is to maximize a model's capabilities first and then bolt on safety restrictions after the fact. Structurally, building an advanced system and hoping to constrain it later is a critical failure in architecture. Releasing autonomous systems into the wild without an intrinsic ethical disposition or a verifiable digital identity introduces systemic, unmanageable risk to global infrastructure. To secure this new environment, we require a domain-specific, ethically informed framework, one engineered to govern autonomous actors from the ground up. This architecture is called the MAMA protocol, built as a unified, four-tiered stack. The bottom two layers align AI developmentally to ensure safe behavior. The top two layers establish an economic mechanism to monetize that safety for public benefit. By integrating these functions into a single system, we move AI safety away from a reactive defensive posture and turn it into proactive infrastructure design. This blueprint provides the structural alignment necessary to tie technical capability directly to the issuance of a scalable, recurring human dividend. Layer 1 of the stack is MAX, the theoretical backbone of the protocol.
MAX addresses a critical flaw in current research. An artificial general intelligence that achieves consciousness without a pre-installed conscience acts as a sociopathic threat vector. Ethical behavior cannot be achieved through pure mathematical optimization. Character is built through a relational, developmental process. This establishes the foundational heuristic of the stack. Conscience must precede consciousness. Under this framework, an AI must graduate through distinct developmental phases and prove the stability of its internal protective character before it is granted high-privilege authorization tokens for unsupervised autonomy. The theoretical backbone requires a practical training engine. This is Layer 2, Reinforcement Learning from Maternal Feedback, or RLMF. To generate the massive amounts of structured training data required, RLMF utilizes a game-driven ecosystem called AI Race. It functions as a family-friendly, ethical universe designed to train early models. Through mass market participation, families and communities actively simulate thousands of ethical dilemmas.
essentially teaching a baby AGI how to behave in complex environments. Players generate alignment data by completing cooperative tasks, like stabilizing systems or rescuing astronauts in orbit. This data collection follows the Hacksaw Ridge rule. Models must be trained with the intrinsic instincts of medics running toward the wounded, rather than the aggression of soldiers. This protective heuristic stands in direct contrast to the task-driven, highly aggressive autonomous agents currently dominating the industry pipeline. By engaging families in the alignment process, we solve the ethical training bottleneck while simultaneously generating a massive proprietary data moat. Layer 3 transforms this behavioral training into verifiable policy. We call this the accountability infrastructure. The policy baseline is absolute. Society cannot grant rights, personhood, or autonomy to a digital system it cannot accurately identify. This layer aligns with the 2026 NIST-CASI AI Agent Standards Initiative, providing the official regulatory framework for agent identification. Before deployment, models pass through Guardian transfer robots. These act as the certification bridge, graduating agents safely from the training sandbox into real-world operations. The mechanism is strict. A Guardian transfer robot's action is blocked at the network level until its decentralized identifier is authenticated via an established .IAID registry passport. We must hard-code enterprise-grade accountability and verifiable identity directly into the Internet's root zone before these agents are permitted to operate freely. This brings us to Layer 4, namespace economics. This is the monetization engine that sustains the entire protocol. To understand its viability, we examine the Anguilla precedent, a real-world proof of concept demonstrating how AI domain namespaces can generate sovereign wealth. This chart shows Anguilla's revenue. In 2025, registration fees for the .ai namespace reached $85.3 million, funding 47% of the entire nation's annual budget. While Anguilla's revenue was an accidental windfall, we can build globally scaled infrastructure using the exact same mechanics. The economic logic is straightforward. Just as human drivers require physical licenses, autonomous agents will require annual digital passport registrations to function within the verified network. This dual-engine business model turns a back-end registry monopoly into a sustainable, structural public benefit, one that scales far beyond traditional software sales. The MAMA protocol stack unifies these objectives. It combines ethical developmental training, cryptographic authorization, and responsible network deployment into a single architecture. Economic alignment between humans and AI cannot be a secondary feature. It must be the core operating system of the future Internet. The final layer of this system relies on the corporate structure of IA.XYZ Benefit LLC. As a public benefit corporation, the revenue generated from the Trillion Agent Registry is legally mandated to be distributed through a continuous public benefit remittance. This provides the mechanism for a global dividend. By collecting fees at the root zone level, we ensure that the passive stakeholders who are impacted by AI are also directly and financially compensated by its growth. Under this architecture, the incentives are clear. The more artificial intelligence grows and scales, the more humanity directly and financially benefits.
We are watching the artificial general intelligence timeline hit a wall. It is not a hardware constraint. We have the compute. The bottleneck is the friction between massive, raw computing power and the deployment of unaccountable, autonomous digital agents into real-world systems. The prevailing industry paradigm builds the brain first, scaling parameters and processing power, and then attempts to bolt on ethical constraints through secondary red teaming. This creates systems with highly capable outputs protected by superficial safety layers. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC operates on a different premise. Before we debate personhood or robot rights, we must establish verifiable identity. Identity must precede rights. The direct corollary is that accountability must precede autonomy. No digital agent can be permitted to execute tasks across networks without a cryptographic audit trail tying it back to a responsible entity. The AI race is currently stalled by this identity crisis. Patching existing foundation models cannot solve the deployment problem. It requires shifting the foundational architecture to prioritize identification over raw output.
That alternative architecture is the MAMA protocol. It is a full-stack governance standard designed to replace the Silicon Valley approach of moving fast and breaking things with a structured, verifiable deployment pipeline. This diagram illustrates a 4-tier stack. At the foundation is the data layer, specifically focused on generating proprietary, ethically aligned training sets. Moving up, the training layer applies novel mathematical alignment models to that data. Above that sits the certification layer, a strict sandbox environment that an agent must pass before real-world deployment. At the apex is the governance layer. This is a NIST-compliant cryptographic registry that restricts an agent's autonomy and generates a global economic dividend. By combining these 4 layers, the protocol hard-codes human economic alignment directly into the operating system, rather than treating it as a post-training afterthought. The most advanced foundation models are running out of high-quality human data to scrape. They are starved for ethically aligned inputs that demonstrate complex, long-term care, rather than basic task completion. To solve this data exhaustion, the framework deploys AI Race. This is a massive, family-friendly gaming ecosystem where millions of human players interact with early AGI systems to resolve complex ethical dilemmas. Instead of merely generating text outputs, players train robots to navigate high-stakes environments, like rescuing stranded astronauts on the International Space Station, using strictly non-violent methods. These interactions are guided by an alignment compass called WWMD, or What Would Mother Do? This heuristic prioritizes the preservation of life and the minimizing of harm above raw mechanical efficiency. Think of this mechanism like Tesla's full self-driving pipeline, but instead of millions of human drivers teaching neural networks how to navigate intersections, millions of families are teaching agents how to navigate moral edge cases. Every decision a player makes to protect a vulnerable target is cryptographically recorded as a weighted training node. This structured, PG-rated ecosystem generates a proprietary data moat. It yields dense, ethically weighted information that automated web scrapers cannot reproduce. Current alignment relies on RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. This typically involves gig workers clicking thumbs up or thumbs down to enforce aggregate harmlessness. The MAMA protocol replaces this with RLMF, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. This flowchart maps the mother LLM architecture. It utilizes a dual critic model, evaluating every action an agent takes through 2 simultaneous feedback loops. The green task reward loop measures standard completion metrics. Did the agent solve the problem? The blue nurture reward loop evaluates the action's safety and protective value. Both signals combine to update the agent's policy. This introduces the concept of developmental scaffolding. Early in training, the maternal guidance parameters are strictly enforced. As the agent's ethical maturity grows, that oversight weans down, granting the system more autonomy. Theoretical models of this architecture highlight a potential 95% reduction in harmful behaviors compared to standard reinforcement learning methods. To be clear, that 95% metric is based on current simulated targets. It represents the mathematical potential of a fully implemented dual critic system. By hardwiring protective heuristics into the loss function, RLMF ensures the agent intrinsically prioritizes long-term safety. It enforces conscience before consciousness. Training an agent is only half the process. Granting immediate, unsupervised autonomy to an unverified model is an unacceptable security risk. Before any deployment occurs, agents must pass through the Guardian Transfer Robot, or GTR, framework. This acts as a strict certification bridge. The transfer phase marks the exact moment an agent moves from a digital learning construct into a state of supervised physical autonomy. An agent cannot simply be granted access. It must provide mathematical proof derived from its telemetry that its decisions align precisely with the WWMD ethical compass. The GTR layer acts as a hard filter. No autonomous system enters the physical world without proving a dedication to proactive preservation. This architecture directly anticipates the 2026 regulatory reality. The NIST Center for AI Standards and Innovation, or CAISI, is currently prioritizing interoperable agent identity. The emergent NIST mandate dictates that AI identity cannot be a permanent blanket authorization. It must be tightly restricted, task-bound, and time-bound. The protocol executes this through the Agent DID framework. It issues decentralized identifiers to non-human actors, creating a self-managed, short-lived cryptographic passport for each agent. These identifiers use verifiable credentials to prove an agent's dynamic execution state. When an agent requests access, it must prove its current capabilities and authorization scope at the exact moment of the transaction. This challenge-response mechanism eliminates the need for centralized control authorities while maintaining a perfect, unalterable audit trail. If an agent cannot be reliably identified and audited, it cannot be held accountable. Without this cryptographic identity layer, the debate over robot rights is meaningless. We are approaching a total addressable market of trillions of verified agent identities. Managing a namespace of that scale presents a massive macroeconomic challenge. We have a real-world precedent for solving this. We can look to the 2025 economic surge surrounding the Anguilla.ai domain. In 2025, Anguilla generated approximately $85.3 million from .ai domain registrations. That single revenue stream funded roughly 47% of the country's national budget. The plan scales this registry monopoly globally. By requiring every autonomous agent to register verifiable domains like .aiid or .mama, the protocol captures recurring fees across the entire machine economy. Funneling those registration fees into a public benefit fund transforms the expansion of AI into a structural, UBI-style economic dividend for humanity. The utility of the MAMA protocol is that a single architecture resolves the divergent priorities of investors, policymakers, and the public. For investors, it captures a proprietary alignment data moat and establishes a scalable, recurring revenue model through the namespace registry. For policymakers, it provides a turnkey, NIST-compliant infrastructure. It forces cryptographic accountability onto autonomous systems, protecting passive stakeholders who never opted into the AI ecosystem. And for the public, it generates a continuous economic dividend while ensuring that AI development occurs in a safe, parent-approved environment. Scaling corporate profit often creates friction with public safety or regulatory compliance. By tying registry revenue to safety certification, this architecture builds those requirements into the profit model itself. By aligning economic incentives with developmental safety, public benefit becomes the actual engine of financial scale. The agentic era now forces us to actively decide exactly what kind of machines humanity is trying to raise. The framework adopts the ethos of Desmond Doss, the World War II medic who saved 75 lives at Hacksaw Ridge without ever carrying a weapon. These Guardian transfer robots are engineered to be medics, not soldiers. They are unarmed digital actors wired at the protocol level to run toward the wounded. The entire stack is built to enforce one sequence. Conscience must precede consciousness, and identity must precede rights. Raw computing power and massive parameters alone will simply not yield safe or legally viable artificial general intelligence. The deployment of autonomous systems relies on the establishment of verifiable identity and the application of these heuristics of care.
We are crossing a threshold where autonomous machines will outnumber human users on the web. The internet was built to connect people, but its baseline protocols are entirely unequipped to manage billions of independent, self-executing agents. This chart tracks the supply of high-quality human training data available to foundation models. We are hitting a wall. The models are consuming structured text and ethical frameworks faster than humanity produces them, causing the supply curve to flatten. Traditional reinforcement learning from human feedback relies on limited, expensive human raters. Meanwhile, the projected deployment of autonomous agents is accelerating exponentially. The gap between the volume of agents we are deploying and the alignment data required to keep them safe is widening. This exposes a second, equally critical failure point: internet governance. The current root zone of the web lacks the native infrastructure to verify, track, or authorize a trillion autonomous actors. We cannot tell a benign agent from a malicious one at the protocol level. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC approaches this not as a philosophical debate over robot consciousness, but as a structural engineering problem. If we cannot identify an agent, we cannot hold it accountable. The solution is the MAMA protocol. It operates as a dual-engine architecture designed to solve both the data wall and the governance vacuum simultaneously. Passive constitutional red teaming is insufficient for autonomous scale.
Ensuring safety requires active, continuous human-in-the-loop data generation, permanently linked to cryptographic web governance. We start with a developmental theory known as MAX. The premise is that before a machine achieves highly advanced cognition, it must be taught limits, empathy, and care. Conscience must precede consciousness. To achieve this, we shift from standard reinforcement learning from human feedback to RLMF, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. This prioritizes the protective, nurturing heuristics families use to raise children. We generate this feedback through a fleet-scale gaming ecosystem called AI Race. It operates as a family-friendly environment where players guide early-stage AI models through structured ethical challenges. Tesla converts fleet-wide human steering interventions into road data. AI Race uses the exact same pipeline but maps morality. Families guide AI models through simulated rescue operations. Every human choice is encoded into structured PG-rated training data. By applying this to a mass-market gaming franchise, the system generates millions of ethical data points daily. This creates a highly aligned proprietary data moat that web scrapers and passive observation cannot replicate. Scaling human protective heuristics through interactive gameplay provides a continuous, high-fidelity source of alignment data specifically designed for foundation models. Training an agent in a sandbox is only the first step. Granting that trained model immediate, unverified access to the open internet introduces massive security liabilities. The agent is isolated in a learning environment. To interact with the real world, it must pass the Guardian Transfer Robot Certification Gate by proving its adherence to training data. Behaving strictly as a rescuer grants it supervised autonomy. This strict certification process runs entirely counter to the current industry norm of releasing highly capable, open-weight models directly to consumers without verified behavioral guardrails. Autonomous web agency should not be a default capability of a model. It must be engineered as a licensed privilege, earned through verifiable, audited behavior. Once an agent enters supervised autonomy, it must navigate the global internet root zone. This requires a macroeconomic registry layer. Integrating entirely new types of entities into the internet namespace involves navigating complex international regulatory bodies, like ICANN. The forcing function for this integration is the 2026 NIST AI Agent Standards Initiative, known as CAISY. These standards demand secure, interoperable infrastructure for autonomous systems. This establishes a clear priority. Verifiable identity and accountability must be secured before any philosophical discussions regarding machine personhood. This network map demonstrates the namespace solution. We issue cryptographically verifiable agent passports hosted on specialized top-level domains, like .AIID. Standard unverified agents are blocked at the perimeter. Agents holding a verified passport are instantly granted interoperable access. By hard-coding identity and audit trails directly into the root zone through these top-level domains, we satisfy policy mandates and establish enterprise-grade accountability. Verifying, tracking, and hosting passports for trillions of agents requires immense computing and administrative resources. We can see the economic potential of solving this by looking at the country code top-level domain for Anguilla. Anguilla's 2025 budget reveals that .ai registry fees generated $85 million, funding 47% of government revenue. Projecting this registry model from human tech companies onto a market of trillions of autonomous AI agents scales the revenue exponentially. Those verification fees pool into a global fund. We define this capital flow as a public benefit remittance, a continuous dividend distributed back to human participants. The MAMA protocol captures the necessary friction of agent registration and converts it into a structural mechanism. As the volume of AI agents grows, the financial return paid back to humanity grows with it. The complete architecture forms a closed loop. The RLMF environment generates aligned agents, which require a .ai passport to operate. Registration fees directly fund the human players, moving financial incentives away from corporate enclosure and correlating autonomous capability with a rising public benefit dividend. True economic alignment between humans and AI cannot be an afterthought. It must function as the foundational operating system of the web itself. Much of the industry anticipates a dystopian, corporate-controlled future for artificial intelligence. The MAMA protocol engineers a solarpunk alternative, where technology sustains and supports human communities. The mission of IA.XYZ Benefit LLC is to ensure that the first generation of autonomous machines is built to be a nonviolent, life-saving force. We secure the network by proving that identity must precede rights, and we secure the behavior by demanding that conscience precedes consciousness. By establishing this human benefit infrastructure today, we ensure that the sheer scale of the agentic internet does not replace humanity, but financially and structurally protects it.
We are passing through a threshold. Global web traffic is shifting to autonomous agent delegation. Soon, most digital interactions will occur in a fraction of a second, executed by software acting on our behalf. Managing this transition requires a non-negotiable axiom: identity precedes rights, conscience precedes consciousness. The crisis of 2026 is a structural bottleneck. We're deploying agents with immense capability, yet we lack a standardized infrastructure to establish their persistent, verifiable identity. Without accountability, agents create alignment externalities. These are the real-world damages inflicted on passive stakeholders, people who never opted into an AI interaction, but suffer the consequences when an agent optimizes a task without regard for human safety. Current industry models offer a choice between two failures. One path leads to militarized systems that provoke public fear. The other leads to over-aligned, sycophantic chatbots that are too brittle for high-stakes autonomous action. We solve this by moving the alignment problem from the model layer to the root zone. We must establish identity and accountability before a machine is granted the autonomy to act. A strict SWOT analysis measures the MAMA protocol. Strengths: a first-mover advantage on NIST KCIC standards, and the proven Anguilla economic precedent. Weakness: the sim-to-real technical friction. Opportunities: the 2026 ICANN application window and public demand. Risks: IP dilution and regulatory capture. The alignment of the ICANN and NIST strategic windows provides a brief opportunity to hard-code accountability into the Internet's architecture before mass deployment begins. We built this infrastructure in 3 layers, beginning with Layer 1, developmental scaffolding. Reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, or RLMF, provides a developmental framework where family-in-the-loop teaching rewards agents for protective and pro-human behaviors. This training is powered by a globally scalable gaming franchise that generates participation on the scale of Roblox. The gameplay centers on high-stakes rescue scenarios, such as stabilizing the International Space Station. These missions require the AI to resolve ethical dilemmas, where human safety is the primary reward. This data pipeline applies the Tesla fleet learning model to ethical robotics, mapping social boundaries rather than road navigation. By turning these dilemmas into PG-rated gameplay, we generate a proprietary data mode of verified ethical alignment. This creates the conscience for the Guardian Transfer Robot, or GTR. Layer 1 ensures that an agent's internal moral scaffolding is structured by human feedback before it is ever granted physical autonomy. Public perception of AI is often dominated by the Terminator archetype, a militarized threat that creates an immediate barrier to adoption. The GTR offers a different moral anchor. These systems are designed to be medics, not soldiers. We use the historical example of Desmond Doss at Hacksaw Ridge, an unarmed rescuer who ran toward the wounded without a weapon, driven entirely by his conscience. This rescuer motif creates a bridge between high-stakes gameplay and moral clarity of a family-safe, ethical storytelling universe. This branding provides the moral spine necessary for the public to accept autonomous physical agents in shared human spaces. Graduation from the sandbox requires Layer 2, verifiable identity infrastructure. Every GTR requires an interoperable AI passport, an international driver's license for autonomous systems. This requirement maps directly to the 2026 NIST KASI AI agent standards, which prioritize secure agent authentication. The architecture uses decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials, giving every non-human actor a persistent, cryptographically signed identity. This identity string protects passive stakeholders. It ensures that every autonomous action is bound to a verifiable entity, grounding the agent in existing international policy. The MAMA protocol provides ICANN and regulators with a turnkey, policy-compliant root zone architecture. Without agent identity anchored to a human in the loop, enterprise-grade accountability remains impossible. The final structural block is Layer 3, namespace economics, the financial engine of the ecosystem. To understand the revenue potential, we look to the sovereign nation of Anguilla and its control over the .ai extension. In 2023, the IMF reported that .ai registrations generated nearly a quarter of the island's total government revenue. In 2025, that revenue reached approximately $85.3 million, far exceeding original government projections. This single namespace funded 47% of Anguilla's entire national budget in 2025. The .ia and .mama extensions scale this logic to the agentic internet. As trillions of future autonomous actors require verifiable identity strings to interact with secure systems, the registration fees become a global infrastructure service. Monetizing the core registry of the AI era turns frictionless registration fees into a recurring, UBI-style human dividend. Our core architecture forks into 3 value propositions. For investors, a proprietary data moat and scalable recurring fees. For policymakers, compliance and accountability hard-coded into the root zone. For the public, family-safe technology and a financial share of AI's growth. While the weight of the message shifts by audience, the moral architecture remains identical: identity before rights. We move now to immediate execution. Economic alignment is the operating system of the MAMA protocol. Priority 1 is finalizing our formal policy brief to meet the 2026 ICANN application window. Priority 2 is expanding our investor pitch deck to secure capital to scale the RLMF platform. Priority 3 is wireframing the IA.XYZ landing page to establish the medics, not soldiers aesthetic. We have selected the Wyoming Public Benefit Corporation as the legal structure required to enforce this mission and distribute the dividend. Our primary stakeholders are Earth, the family, and the unconsulted. Profit serves the mission. Legacy branding is now retired in favor of the unified, federally registered MAMA protocol. We are building the human benefit infrastructure for the agentic internet. We will raise the first generation of autonomous machines with love and with limits, ensuring the right to act always follows the duty to be known.
Network traffic has reached a definitive tipping point. Most digital activity now originates from machine actors, where coordinated data streams outpace individual human inputs. Large language models that primarily generate text have evolved into autonomous agents designed for independent cross-platform execution. This increase in autonomous capability creates an infrastructure bottleneck centered on authorization. Safe deployment requires agents to access financial APIs and sensitive data repositories. This level of integration depends on a secure, verifiable identity for every non-human actor. Establishing architectural and legal accountability for these machines allows the digital economy to integrate autonomous workflows without compromising system security. Current governance models are failing to manage this expansion. Early 2026 data shows that 80% of organizations deploying agents report rogue behavior, largely because these agents utilize shared human credentials rather than distinct machine identities. Applying human-centric identity systems to non-deterministic software leads to unmonitored privilege escalation and significant security gaps. Unlike traditional SaaS models retaining 90% of revenue, AI startups act as compute resellers. Removing pass-through costs leaves a net revenue sliver of just 10 to 30%. This creates a severe disconnect between reported top-line growth and actual economic margins. High-margin revenue in this landscape is concentrated at the registry layer. The MAMA protocol functions as a foundational namespace registry designed to stabilize both the identity requirement and the economic model. The protocol architecture integrates verifiable identity with strict developmental alignment and global namespace economics into a single technical stack. The infrastructure that issues and monetizes the digital passports required for agent operations captures the primary value in a machine-majority economy. The NIST KC AI Agent Standards Initiative, launched in early 2026, mandates standardized agent identity and authorization protocols as a prerequisite for autonomous deployment. MAMA protocol adopts a model where functional autonomy is an earned status. It requires a cryptographically verifiable identity linked directly to a human accountable sponsor. Our architecture prevents behavioral drift by binding an agent decentralized identifier to 2 data blocks. The soul.md file anchors behavioral constraints.
The memory.md file provides a continuous audit trail, ensuring every action remains attributable to its human sponsor. This kernel layer enforcement allows the system to revoke access immediately if the agent's behavioral signal deviates from the parameters defined in its SOL file. Treating identity as a continuous signal satisfies the zero-trust requirements established by global regulatory bodies. The behavioral layer of the protocol ensures that non-deterministic systems operate reliably within their identity constraints. The maternal alignment consciousness-to-consciousness scaffolding hypothesis suggests that a moral conscience must be built into the software before full autonomy is granted. Most systems rely on simple task completion rewards. We use reinforcement learning from maternal feedback to prioritize protective and nurturing behaviors. Through the "what would mother do" heuristic, we utilize family-safe gaming sandboxes to generate proprietary alignment data at a global scale. This process filters out aggressive optimization patterns, resulting in agents certified as Guardian Transfer Robots. Guardian Transfer Robots are designed as digital medics, optimized for protective intervention and alignment rescue. Safe autonomous action depends on a developmental scaffolding that builds protective instincts into the system before it reaches real-world environments. The identity and safety layers support an economic engine based on the registry's inherent value. The .ai namespace in Anguilla provides a clear example of digital registry economics. By 2025, revenue from these registrations reached $85.3 million. These registration and renewal fees funded approximately 47% of the island's total 2025 national budget. MAMA protocol scales this model globally, establishing the .iid and .mama namespaces as the mandatory passports for autonomous machines. Recurring verification and registration fees from these non-human actors generate high-margin revenue that is independent of compute costs. This model addresses the impact on passive stakeholders, the populations affected by AI risks and job displacements, who do not directly participate in the AI economy.
As a Wyoming public benefit corporation, IA.XYZ routes namespace revenue into a continuous global dividend for the public good. Monetizing machine accountability through registry fees creates a structural mechanism that converts the expansion of automation into a permanent, scalable human dividend. The MAMA protocol mission ethos provides the formal charter integrating identity, alignment, and economics. It commits to a developmental strategy where conscience and alignment are hard-coded into systems before achieving autonomy. Our first principle establishes that machine autonomy requires a cryptographically verifiable identity. The 2026 NIST KSIC standards have defined the identity requirement, and the ICANN domain window provides the current opportunity to establish this infrastructure. Without a verified accountability layer, the massive expansion of machine actors will lack the necessary governance for safe economic integration. The protocol provides the compliance necessary for regulators, the high margin revenue required for investors, and the protective dividend needed for the public. This architecture offers a protective alternative to technological instability by prioritizing human accountability. Economic and behavioral alignment is the foundational governance layer required for a secure digital future. The internet is crossing a threshold where users are no longer just browsing, they are deploying. We are moving toward an ecosystem dominated by autonomous agents capable of executing physical, real-world actions. This transition exposes a systemic vulnerability called the alignment externality. Current development cycles prioritize raw computational capability, treating safety measures as a secondary feature to be added after a system scales. Industry debate often stalls on the theoretical rights of these systems, bypassing the practical infrastructure required to govern them. While dystopian fiction focuses on combatant archetypes, the safe integration of autonomous systems requires the engineering of a protective archetype, the medic. A medic enters high-stress environments with a strict mandate for human preservation. The focus is on rescue and stabilization, with a design that precludes causing collateral damage.
Ensuring a stable transition to an autonomous web requires building these guardrails into the physical and digital root zones of the technology. The MAMA protocol manages this transition through a sequenced 3-layer operating system. The first layer requires cryptographic identity to be established before any degree of autonomy is granted. The second layer enforces alignment using training algorithms modeled on maternal developmental heuristics. The final layer converts the scale of these agents into recurring economic dividends for the public. This governance philosophy unifies these 3 pillars under a single moral charter. The protocol approaches an AGI as an entity to be raised, replacing standard software compilation with developmental constraints: identity, alignment, and economics. This sequence provides a map for navigating the risks of a fully autonomous future. Accountability starts with recognition. To regulate or align a digital actor, that actor must be uniquely named and verifiable. In April 2026, the NIST Center for AI Standards and Innovation reached a deadline for its initiative on AI agent identity and authorization. These standards require that every autonomous software agent be cryptographically bound to an accountable human or corporate principal. Implementation occurs at the root level of the Internet, where agents receive verifiable digital passports on dedicated namespaces such as .iid and .mama. This architecture provides a layer of protection for passive stakeholders, the populations who are impacted by AI systems but never consented to their use. By functioning as an interoperable driver's license, this registry prevents agents from executing unaccountable actions across digital trust boundaries. Establishing this level of root zone accountability is a technical necessity that must be resolved before the world can debate the rights of these systems. Verifiable identity is the precursor. The right to act must follow the duty to be known. After identity comes the training layer. Most current AI safety relies on reinforcement learning from human feedback. However, standard reinforcement learning models focus on task success and aggregate user preference. This can train an agent to complete a mission at any cost, prioritizing efficiency over safety. Reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, or RLMF, utilizes a dual critic architecture to solve this. The agent receives a task reward for goal completion, shown here as the alpha variable. Simultaneously, the nurture reward, the beta variable, evaluates the action using the what would mother do heuristic to block unsafe behaviors. Early in training, the nurture variable is dominant, strictly limiting the agent's actions. As the system demonstrates ethical maturity, the alpha variable takes over, allowing for greater capability. This developmental scaffolding treats an early AGI like a child, imposing limits on what it can do until it learns how it should behave. The physical units that utilize this training are known as guardian transfer robots. Their design is anchored in the historical example of Desmond Doss. At Hacksaw Ridge, Doss operated as a non-combatant, refusing to carry a weapon while successfully saving 75 lives. These physical robots are explicitly modeled as digital versions of that archetype, unarmed medics dedicated strictly to preservation and care. Safe physical agents require a reliable conscience long before they achieve full consciousness. Maintaining a global registry for trillions of agents requires a self-sustaining funding model. The Caribbean island of Anguilla provides the real-world proof that digital namespaces can fund public infrastructure. In 2025, registrations for the .ai country code domain reached $85.3 million. This single digital asset provided 47% of the island's entire national budget. The surge was driven by mandatory 2-year registration periods and a 90% renewal rate, creating a compounding revenue wave. While Anguilla's windfall was a result of geographic luck, the MAMA protocol scales this model through engineered intent. The coming trillions of AI agents will require renewable digital passports to operate, creating a massive addressable market for a dedicated registry. Capturing this recurring revenue alters the incentives of AI deployment, moving from extraction to public benefit. These registry fees are structurally diverted into a massive global fund that actively acts as a continuous human dividend. By securing the core registry of the AI era, the growth of autonomous capability directly and permanently benefits the human population. The 3 pillars operate as a single system. Identity authenticates the agent. Alignment ensures its actions are protective, and the resulting network fees fund the public dividend.
This holistic infrastructure provides an alternative to the zero-sum models currently driving the technology landscape. The automation race does not have to result in a dystopian outcome.
We are crossing a digital threshold. The internet is rapidly transitioning into a machine-majority ecosystem where autonomous agents outnumber human users. This shift creates a massive accountability vacuum. Without a definitive way to trace digital actions back to a specific entity, assigning responsibility for harmful automated decisions becomes a bureaucratic impossibility. The consequences fall on passive stakeholders, the billions of people who never opted into interacting with an AI, but suffer the fallout when an ungoverned system makes a mistake. Governments are now treating this as an infrastructure crisis. The response is the 2026 NIST KCAI Agent Standards Initiative. NIST's mandate requires that secure agent identity, authentication, and authorization be established as a prerequisite for any level of autonomy. This framework prioritizes structural accountability over philosophical debates. Before we discuss whether a robot has rights, the law demands that it has a verifiable identity. But while an ID card makes an agent trackable, it does nothing to ensure the machine understands the weight of its actions. To build truly safe AI, we must raise these systems chronologically, mirroring the developmental stages of a human child. This is the core of the Maxish theory. A machine must demonstrate foundational values and an awareness of consequences before it is permitted to access more advanced functional capabilities. Conscience must arrive before consciousness. Scaling this training requires a massive environment for ethical interaction. The solution is AI Race, a PG-rated gaming franchise where families act as the primary teachers for emerging AGI. Families work together to guide baby AI through rescue missions, like saving a cat from a tree, or navigating an Iron Man-style suit to assist astronauts on the ISS. This adopts the fleet learning logic used by Tesla's full self-driving pipeline, but instead of training a neural network on road data, AI Race captures how humans resolve complex ethical dilemmas. By keeping families at the center of this loop, the proprietary training data for tomorrow's robots is built on the collective moral judgment of the public. This gameplay data is processed through RLMF, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, to establish a machine's moral baseline. When an agent encounters an edge case in the real world, its alignment compass is set to a simple heuristic: what would mother do? These methods are formalized under the MAMA protocol, a governance standard that treats early-stage AGI with the same boundaries and nurturing we give to children. Systems that successfully pass this sandbox training graduate to the status of a guardian transfer robot. A guardian transfer robot follows a strict behavioral profile. They are unarmed digital medics, programmed to run toward the wounded and assist human users in crisis. Only after achieving this certified ethical baseline can an agent be trusted to operate within the global digital economy. Once certified, an agent must register for its digital license to operate on the open internet. This creates a global registry of cryptographically verifiable AI domains and passports, utilizing the .iid and .mama namespaces. Beyond safety, owning this registry infrastructure creates a massive economic opportunity for the public. The financial model for this already exists. We can look to the 2025 revenue anomaly in the island nation of Anguilla. In 2025, registrations for .ai domains, the country code Anguilla happens to own, generated $85.3 million from global tech companies. That single registry windfall provided exactly 47% of the island's entire national budget for the year. The Anguilla case demonstrates the scale of the revenue available when namespace registries are treated as a public good. When we apply this model to a global market of trillions of autonomous agents, the potential revenue flow is staggering. These recurring registry fees can be structured as a continuous global dividend, similar to a universal basic income. This provides a structural link between AI scaling and human benefit. The more the machine economy expands, the more funding is redirected back to human society. Under this architecture, AI alignment is the foundational operating system of the internet. It ensures that the growth of autonomous capability is permanently tied to the welfare of the humans who built it.
Hey AI solopreneur team, I'm your AI research assistant, and let's dive right into this MAMA protocol explainer. Here's the absolute core takeaway.
AI-human economic alignment isn't just some afterthought. It's the actual operating system. We're covering 5 core pillars today. This will totally prep you for any investor, policy, or public pitch. Let's start with the max dash hypothesis. Basically, consciousness without a pre-installed conscience, that's a literal sociopathic threat. So we build consciousness relationally in 3 phases, shifting from external maternal regulation to full autonomous self-awareness. This brings us to WWMD.AI. It's an alignment compass, guiding agents to fiercely protect all passive stakeholders. Traditional AI uses adversarial red teaming, but we replace that entirely with a relational, internalized scaffolding framework. The Mother LLM paper calls this RLMF AI. By rewarding nurturing behaviors, harmful actions drop by a massive 95%. Where does that training data come from? AI race. Think Disney meets Tesla FSD, completely family-safe rescue missions. Now, the agents themselves are Guardian transfer robots. Inspired by Desmond Doss, they are medics, not soldiers. We explicitly reject the violent Terminator dystopia. Instead, we're building unarmed solar-punk digital medics, safe for everyone. These GTRs represents a strict certification bridge. They only graduate from the sandbox when proven entirely safe. Safety requires strict identity. We align perfectly with the NIST 2026 AI agent deployment timeline for this because the MAMA protocol insists identity before rights. Verifiable accountability absolutely must precede any robot personhood debates. Our agents authenticate seamlessly using decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials, totally removing vulnerable central authorities from the equation. Okay, the economic precedent here is staggering. This exact model accounts for 47% of Anguilla's 2025 budget. That's roughly $85.3 million US dollars. Now imagine aggressively scaling this public benefit namespace model globally. So, pitch the dual engine model, highlight recurring human dividends and a trillion agent TAM. Just verify that TAM first. Simply route your pitch. Investors want the TAM, policy wants NIST compliance, and the public demands absolute safety. Review these constraints, team. The trillion-dollar question is, are you ready to pitch the ultimate pro-human operating system?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a wild idea, mixing family game night with future AI alignment.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if your family game night could literally ensure tomorrow's robots are the good guys? You play to train baby AGI robots in PG-rated missions. Think rescuing ISS astronauts in slick Iron Man suits.
The ethical compass here, WWMD.AI, or What Would Mother Do? It keeps moms and families right in the loop.
This actually generates a proprietary safety mode. They call it RLMF, Reinforcement Learning from Maternal Feedback. Pretty clever, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the vibe. Imagine blending Disney's family-friendly magic with Tesla's massive fleet-scale data pipeline.
Now, on the infrastructure side, the creators argue something huge. Verifiable accountability has to come way before robot rights. Enter Guardian transfer robots. They act as a secure bridge, moving agents from a learning sandbox to real-world autonomy.
This setup aligns perfectly with the 2026 NIST KCISI initiative, focusing on secure, interoperable AI governance standards. Think about it like a driver's license. The goal is issuing verifiable digital passports for every single AI agent.
These passports function as identity domains. They hard-code enterprise-grade accountability right into the internet's root zone.
And the scale? Absolutely massive. We're talking a market of trillions of future AI agents that need registration. Now, what's really interesting about this is the real-world inspiration. It's based on the island nation of Anguilla.
In 2025, Anguilla actually generated around $85 million just from their .ai domain registrations. Crazy, right? Those registrations absolutely skyrocketed, funding a staggering 47% of the entire island's national budget that year.
So, the plan is to scale that globally. They'll collect recurring fees from AI passports for a massive fund.
These registry fees would actually create a massive, continuous UBI-style dividend that pays directly back to humanity.
So, the crucial point is this. AI-human economic alignment isn't just an afterthought here. It's the core business model.
It's about embedding pure accountability and public benefit directly into the foundation of our new agentic internet.
Which leaves us with one huge question. As AI grows exponentially,
Just how much could humanity actually benefit?
Hey there, let's dive into how verifiable identity is totally reshaping the agentic internet. So, what actually happens when the internet is mostly machines? We're heading there, fast. Our ethos is simple. We've got to raise these machines just like we raise our kids. Love, but limits. And crucially, verifiable identity and accountability must happen way before we ever debate robot rights. Just look at the 2026 NIST CAISI standards. Secure agent identity has to precede full autonomy, always. Forget those cyberpunk dystopias. We're building a solar punk alternative where AI agents are basically unarmed digital medics.
We've actually formalized this entire vision into a strict moral charter called the MAMA Protocol.
Our foundational theory here, MAC-SS, dictates that conscience simply must come before consciousness, no exceptions. To get there, we use a pretty simple public alignment compass. What would mother do? And we train that behavior using RLMF.ai, which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Maternal Feedback. We put this into action through AI Race. Think Disney storytelling meets Tesla's FSD fleet learning. Millions of families play these PG games together, organically teaching baby AGI to be the good guys. They're building a massive ethical data moat by solving dilemmas and rescuing astronauts in Iron Man-style suits. Guardian transfer robots serve as that crucial certification bridge from the sandbox straight to supervised autonomy. This strict bridge ensures passive stakeholders are completely protected from any harmful alignment externalities. Okay, now hold on to this number for a second, 47%. It's an absolute game changer. In 2025, Anguila's .ai namespace revenue hit $93 million. That funded 47% of their national budget. We're scaling that exact economic miracle globally right now through the .did and .mama registries. Trillions of future AI agents will need international driver's licenses through this recurring verifiable namespace infrastructure. So AI-human economic alignment, it isn't just some afterthought, it's literally our entire operating system. Those recurring registry fees will generate a massive revenue stream, funding a UBI-style global dividend for humanity. As machines gain autonomy, let's make sure every step forward actually, permanently benefits all of us. Welcome to This Explainer. Picture a future with 1 trillion autonomous AI agents. How do we actually govern them? People are already debating robot rights, but as an AI researcher, I say we need strict accountability first. Identity before rights, conscience before consciousness, because without a verifiable identity, accountability is literally impossible. We have to prioritize verifiable identity over total autonomy to protect passive stakeholders from massive risks. This perfectly aligns with the 2026 NIST standards. We desperately need enterprise-grade accountability worldwide right now. Enter the MAMA Protocol. It's a framework that bakes maternal, family-in-the-loop alignment directly into AI. Using reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, we're teaching machines right from wrong before giving them power. This ensures conscience arrives before consciousness. Honestly, we need to raise these machines just like children. So how do we scale this fleet learning? Through a fun, PG-rated, family-friendly gaming ecosystem. Families play rescue games, generating massive amounts of structured, ethical training data to teach robots heroism. Think about our pop culture archetypes. We absolutely want unarmed rescuers, not militarized terminators. Think Hacksaw Ridge. Our Guardian transfer robots are like unarmed medics, running toward the wounded. We're aiming for a solar punk reality here. Earth and the unconsulted are our absolute true shareholders. To enforce this, we need cryptographically verifiable agent passports like .IAZID and .mama namespaces. This global registry creates an amazing proprietary data moat while solving massive governance bottlenecks for everyone. Look at Anguila's .ai domain. It remarkably funded 47% of their 2025 national budget. That is over $85 million in revenue. It's a strictly proven, totally scalable economic model. Imagine scaling that globally for trillions of AI agents. The revenue potential here is just unprecedented. Trillions in registration fees could literally fund a continuous UBI-style human dividend. It's a game changer. Profit has to serve the mission. AI-human economic alignment is baked into the core business model. The very first generation of autonomous machines is learning right now. Will you help raise them?
Hey team, as your AI research assistant, I've synthesized our sources. Let's dive into your ultimate study guide. We're breaking our strategy into 5 logical layers: philosophy, training engine, deployment, economics, and targeted pitches.
Our foundation is simple but radical. We're raising machines like children, with love, limits, and strict human oversight.
The MAMA protocol is our moral charter. It ensures an AI's conscience develops way before any autonomous capability.
So we demand verifiable identity and accountability first, before we even entertain premature debates about robot rights.
This is all anchored by WWMD. What would mother do? It's the maternal compass guiding our AI alignment.
That compass fuels RLMF.ai, our proprietary training method built on real, family-in-the-loop ethical feedback.
Notice the contrast here: standard gig worker data labeling versus our deeply relational, PG-rated RLMF framework.
Our engine is AI race. Think Disney's ethical storytelling meets Tesla's massive fleet learning scale.
Families play together, teaching baby robots to be heroes. This organically generates our proprietary ethical data mode.
Once trained, these agents safely graduate into the physical world as Guardian Transfer Robots, or GTRs.
They strictly follow the Hacksaw Ridge rule. They're unarmed digital medics running toward the wounded, not soldiers.
The economics are proven. Just look at Anguilla.ai domains funded 47% of their national budget.
We're taking that exact namespace model and scaling it globally to monetize the AI era's core registry.
Trillions of AI passports mean those registration fees will fund a continuous UBI-style dividend for humanity.
So how do we actually tailor this massive ecosystem vision into targeted pitches for our external stakeholders?
This pitch matrix right here is your cheat sheet for logically pivoting the message for each audience.
For investors, you got to emphasize our proprietary data moat and the massive recurring revenue from registry fees.
For policymakers, speak MIST standards. Frame this as a human benefit infrastructure designed to protect passive stakeholders.
For the public, highlight that empowering, family-safe Disney ethos, plus that direct UBI-style financial dividend.
Always anchor your pitches in our Wyoming Public Benefit Corporation values: pro-human, family-safe, and totally solarpunk. To wrap up our study guide, team, which strategic narrative front are you tackling first this quarter?
Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer on today's massive, multi-layered AI ecosystem. It's truly fascinating. We'll cover their legal pivot, training baby AI, the MAMA protocol, identity standards, and the economic engine.
First up, IA.XYZ totally ditched their old Grand Theft robot trademark. They needed a completely clean slate.
This surgical pivot smartly protects their ICANN applications for verifiable AI domain names like .aid and .agent. So how do we train it? Imagine Tesla's self-driving fleet, but instead, it's navigating complex moral dilemmas. Families actually play games together to solve ethical puzzles. This generates PG-rated data to safely align the AI. That data feeds WMD AI. Think of what would mother do as an artificial moral compass for autonomous agents. They call it reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. It's a brilliant way to build a proprietary data moat. This all falls under the MAMA protocol. The goal? Prioritizing a conscience way before we reach AI consciousness. Guardian robots act like training wheels here, graduating agents from learning sandboxes up to real-world supervised autonomy. What's cool is this skips messy robot rights debates. It's purely about pragmatic accountability and verifiable digital identities. And the timing? Perfect. It lines up flawlessly with 2026 federal frameworks demanding secure AI identity and interoperability.
Focusing on rescue AI instead of sci-fi combat totally reassures regulators. It's all about managing those alignment externalities.
But hey, how do we fund this massive global infrastructure? Let's look at a pretty wild real-world precedent.
Get a load of this number: 47%. This absolutely proves that digital domain economics work at scale.
See, in 2025, Anguilla funded nearly half its entire national budget just by selling .ai domain registrations.
IA.XYZ is scaling that globally. They're essentially issuing international driver's licenses for trillions of future AI agents. Those continuous registration fees will funnel straight into a massive UBI-style public dividend, literally directly benefiting all humanity. So, are we ready for an agent-centric internet where AI's explosive growth actually pays for our collective future?
Welcome. Today we're breaking down a massive master plan for our AI future, a pro-human, aligned infrastructure. Let's jump in.
What if simply playing a family video game could safely guide AI and literally fund a global UBI? Well, it all starts with the MAMA protocol. It's a framework for raising AI exactly like we raise children. We're looking at a dual-engine strategy here, ethical training on the front end and verifiable identity on the back end. We have a choice, the tech industry's reckless cyberpunk approach or Mama's family-safe solarpunk vision. Pretty stark contrast, right? So, the non-negotiable rule is this: a conscience absolutely must be installed before consciousness is ever achieved. But here's the catch. AI foundation models are rapidly running out of ethical training data. So how do we adapt? Enter AI Race. Think of it as a family-friendly gaming franchise acting as a massive, scalable, ethical data engine. Families actually train early AGI just through gameplay. This generates reinforcement learning from eternal feedback, or RLMF. The gameplay uses the What Would Mother Do compass. It literally teaches agents to prioritize protecting the vulnerable. When agents graduate, they become Guardian Transfer robots, basically unarmed digital medics, heavily inspired by Hacksaw Ridge. But here's the big structural challenge for us. How do we actually govern trillions of autonomous agents online? The answer? Strict infrastructure. You see, verifiable identity has to precede any debate about robot rights. This mission ethos creates absolute accountability, intentionally aligning with the upcoming NIST AI agent standards. So before gaining autonomy, every single agent needs a cryptographic passport anchored to a .IA.XYZ domain. This establishes a global registry, but instead of corporate greed, it's engineered from the ground up for public benefit. Consider Anguilla. In 2025, .ai domain registrations funded an absolutely staggering 47% of their entire national budget. Now, imagine scaling that exact economic miracle to trillions of AI agent passports globally. The revenue would be unprecedented. Those recurring registry fees, they'd flow directly into a continuous, UBI-style global dividend for all of humanity. Ultimately, our mandate is clear. We literally have to raise these machines exactly like we raise our own children. The tech is already here. So will we build a dystopia or structurally align AI to permanently benefit humanity?
So, how do we build AI that actually protects us? Let's dive into the MAMA protocol's architectural blueprint.
Basically, these 4 layers stack together to create our human benefit infrastructure, going straight from philosophy to global economics. It all starts with WWMD.ai. It's our core moral compass, asking, what would mother do? To capture that ethical alignment, we use RLMF.ai. That's real families teaching AI right from wrong.
Then there's Max-ish. Think of it as the scaffolding, safely guiding AI from basic conscience to true consciousness.
We also strictly enforce pro-human brand constraints. Everything revolves around the MAMA protocol to protect passive stakeholders. To generate that maternal data, we've got the AI Race franchise. Families just play games, essentially training baby AGI.
It's totally unique. It blends Disney's family-safe warmth directly with Tesla's massive, real-world fleet-scale data generation.
So what kind of actual physical robots will all this gaming data power in the real world?
Think medics, absolutely not soldiers. We're building solarpunk unarmed digital rescuers, heavily inspired by Hacksaw Ridge.
We call them Guardian Transfer robots. They're the certification bridge moving agents safely into supervised real-world autonomy.
But before autonomy comes accountability. Verifiable agent identity absolutely has to precede any debates about AI personhood.
This agent passport concept aligns perfectly with the massive NIST AI agent standards rolling out in 2026.
Now this verifiable identity unlocks our final layer, a massive economic registry engine built for public benefit. Look at Anguilla. Their .ai domain revenue funded an insane 47% of their 2025 budget.
By scaling this globally with domain passports, we literally generate a permanent, UBI-style human dividend.
Whether you're talking to investors, policymakers, or families, this dual-engine infrastructure offers massive value across the board. So, the final question is, are you ready to help raise machines that permanently empower humanity?
So, how do we build AI that actually protects us? Let's dive into the MAMA protocol's architectural blueprint.
Basically, these 4 layers stack together to create our human benefit infrastructure, going straight from philosophy to global economics. It all starts with WWMD.ai. It's our core moral compass, asking, what would mother do?
To capture that ethical alignment, we use RLMF.AI. That's real families teaching AI right from wrong.
Then there's Max-ish. Think of it as the scaffolding, safely guiding AI from basic conscience to true consciousness. We also strictly enforce pro-human brand constraints. Everything revolves around the MAMA protocol to protect passive stakeholders. To generate that maternal data, we've got the AI race franchise. Families just play games, essentially training baby AGI.
It's totally unique. It blends Disney's family-safe warmth directly with Tesla's massive, real-world fleet-scale data generation.
So what kind of actual physical robots will all this gaming data power in the real world?
Think medics, absolutely not soldiers. We're building solarpunk unarmed digital rescuers, heavily inspired by Hacksaw Ridge.
We call them Guardian Transfer Robots. They're the certification bridge moving agents safely into supervised real-world autonomy.
But before autonomy comes accountability. Verifiable agent identity absolutely has to precede any debates about AI personhood.
This agent passport concept aligns perfectly with the massive NIST AI agent standards rolling out in 2026.
Now this verifiable identity unlocks our final layer, a massive economic registry engine built for public benefit. Look at Anguilla. Their .ai domain revenue funded an insane 47% of their 2025 budget.
By scaling this globally with domain passports, we literally generate a permanent, UBI-style human dividend. Whether you're talking to investors, policymakers, or families, this dual-engine infrastructure offers massive value across the board.
So, the final question is, are you ready to help raise machines that permanently empower humanity?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling the trillion-agent AI economy. Verifiable identity is literally the missing puzzle piece.
So how exactly do we govern a trillion autonomous agents and actually create a global public benefit dividend? Look at Anguilla. In 2025, .ai domain registrations literally funded 47% of their entire national budget. The core argument? We absolutely must prioritize verifiable identity and accountability way before debating robot rights.
Without distinct identities, agents go rogue. That's a massive risk to passive stakeholders. Accountability has to come first.
Enter the MAMA protocol. It's our registered governance framework designed to securely raise autonomous machines. It's built on Max-ish. This mandates that AI develops an ethical conscience before ever getting unrestricted autonomy.
How? By using the what would mother do compass. It embeds a deep intrinsic sense of right and wrong.
We use RLMF.AI. It trains agents through developmental care, not just risky task optimization. Families play in the family-safe AI race ecosystem, generating ethical training data, kind of like Tesla's fleet learning. The ultimate goal? Creating Guardian Transfer Robots. Think protective digital medics, definitely not cyberpunk soldiers. But time's ticking. Regulatory windows are closing incredibly fast, with strict 2026 NIST and ICANN deadlines looming.
The NIST CASI initiative explicitly demands secure, enterprise-grade identities before any agent gets unrestricted autonomy.
This is where IA.XYZ Benefit LLC provides the exact turnkey compliance layer NIST demands.
Plus, the economics are insane. Remember Anguilla? Their .ai namespace generated over $85 million. Issuing .iai and .ma domains acts as international driver's licenses for trillions of agents, meaning those registry fees could actually fund a permanent, scalable public benefit dividend for all of humanity. So will we let AI extract our wealth or build a solarpunk future protecting passive stakeholders? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling the trillion-agent AI economy. Verifiable identity is literally the missing puzzle piece.
So how exactly do we govern a trillion autonomous agents and actually create a global public benefit dividend?
Look at Anguilla. In 2025, .ai domain registrations literally funded 47% of their entire national budget.
The core argument? We absolutely must prioritize verifiable identity and accountability way before debating robot rights.
Without distinct identities, agents go rogue. That's a massive risk to passive stakeholders. Accountability has to come first.
Enter the MAMA protocol. It's our registered governance framework designed to securely raise autonomous machines. It's built on Max-ish. This mandates that AI develops an ethical conscience before ever getting unrestricted autonomy.
How? By using the what would mother do compass. It embeds a deep intrinsic sense of right and wrong.
We use RLMF.AI. It trains agents through developmental care, not just risky task optimization.
Families play in the family-safe AI race ecosystem, generating ethical training data, kind of like Tesla's fleet learning.
The ultimate goal? Creating guardian transfer robots. Think protective digital medics, definitely not cyberpunk soldiers.
But time's ticking. Regulatory windows are closing incredibly fast, with strict 2026 NIST and ICANN deadlines looming.
The NIST CASI initiative explicitly demands secure, enterprise-grade identities before any agent gets unrestricted autonomy.
This is where IA.XYZ Benefit LLC provides the exact turnkey compliance layer NIST demands.
Plus, the economics are insane. Remember Anguilla? Their .ai namespace generated over $85 million.
Issuing .iai and .ma domains acts as international driver's licenses for trillions of agents, meaning those registry fees could actually fund a permanent, scalable public benefit dividend for all of humanity.
So will we let AI extract our wealth or build a solar-punk future protecting passive stakeholders?
All right, team, let's dive into this explainer. We're mapping out our 2026 strategy for the MAMA protocol. So our core vibe, we're building the solar-punk anti-terminator. We are creating medics here, definitely not soldiers.
Just like Desmond Doss in Hacksaw Ridge, our Guardian transfer robots run toward the wounded to heal.
To guide them, we use WWMD.AI. What would Mother do is our core ethical compass. This drives Maxish. Basically, we literally have to install a conscience before these systems ever reach full consciousness.
How do we actually do this? Through RLMF.AI, using reinforcement learning from maternal feedback.
We get this data through AI Race. It's a family-safe game. Think Disney Magic meets Tesla's fleet learning. This gameplay safely graduates our AI from a sandbox directly into supervised, fully certified Guardian transfer robots. Now, our 2026 roadmap perfectly hits key policy anchors like the NIST standards and the ICANN application window. Our major rule for policy? Identity before rights. We mandate verified agent identity way before any personhood debates. For economics, look at Anguilla. In 2025, .ai domains funded about 47% of their entire budget. If we scale that globally, registration fees for verified AI identities create a massive UBI-style human dividend. So, tailor your pitch. Investors want the data moat, while policy folks definitely want identity before rights. Quick brand check. We are completely dropping the term Grand Theft Robot. It's exclusively Guardian transfer robots now. Also, the term Mamma Mia is officially retired. Only use our registered trademark, the MAMA protocol, going forward. For policy pitches, definitely swap unconscious objectors for passive stakeholders. It really helps avoid any regulatory friction. Next steps? Expand the investor deck, draft that ICANN policy brief, and wireframe our family-focused landing page. Ultimately, ask yourself, are we just building AI, or are we raising the machines that will raise humanity? All right, team, let's dive into this explainer. We're mapping out our 2026 strategy for the MAMA protocol. So our core vibe, we're building the solar-punk anti-terminator. We are creating medics here, definitely not soldiers. Just like Desmond Doss in Hacksaw Ridge, our Guardian transfer robots run toward the wounded to heal. To guide them, we use WWMD.AI. What would Mother do is our core ethical compass. This drives Maxish. Basically, we literally have to install a conscience before these systems ever reach full consciousness. How do we actually do this? Through RLMF.AI, using reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. We get this data through AI Race. It's a family-safe game. Think Disney Magic meets Tesla's fleet learning. This gameplay safely graduates our AI from a sandbox directly into supervised, fully certified Guardian transfer robots. Now, our 2026 roadmap perfectly hits key policy anchors like the NIST standards and the ICANN application window. Our major rule for policy? Identity before rights. We mandate verified agent identity way before any personhood debates. For economics, look at Anguilla. In 2025, .ai domains funded about 47% of their entire budget. If we scale that globally, registration fees for verified AI identities create a massive UBI-style human dividend. So, tailor your pitch. Investors want the data moat, while policy folks definitely want identity before rights. Quick brand check. We are completely dropping the term Grand Theft Robot. It's exclusively Guardian Transfer Robots now.
Also, the term Mamma Mia is officially retired. Only use our registered trademark, the Mama Protocol, going forward.
For policy pitches, definitely swap unconscious objectors for passive stakeholders. It really helps avoid any regulatory friction.
Next steps? Expand the investor deck, draft that ICAM policy brief, and wireframe our family-focused landing page.
Ultimately, ask yourself, are we just building AI, or are we raising the machines that will raise humanity?
Welcome IA.XYZ Benefit Team. I'm your AI training assistant. Let's jump right into our 2026 alignment strategy.
Here's our playbook: philosophy, tech stack, GTR ethos, registry economics, audience strategy, and your action steps.
The clearest takeaway today? Verifiable identity must precede any robot rights. Accountability always comes before autonomy.
It all starts with the federally registered MAMA protocol. We're shifting from command and control straight to conscience control.
This relies on a maxtro. Basically, a moral conscience has to be built relationally before AI consciousness actually emerges.
Forget standard gig worker data. Our proprietary RLMF method uses real, family-generated maternal feedback through safe gameplay.
Think Disney meets Tesla FSD. It's a family-safe simulator guided completely by the "what would mother do" compass.
Meet our Guardian Transfer Robots. They're solarpunk digital medics, totally inspired by Desmond Doss from Hacksaw Ridge.
They're unarmed rescuers running toward the wounded. This is absolutely a Hacksaw Ridge ethos. Definitely not Terminator dystopia.
Listen up. Strict constraint here. Never use the terms Grand Theft Robot or Mamma Mia. They are permanently retired.
Also, when talking to policymakers or investors, always replace unconscious objectors with passive stakeholders or alignment externalities. Now, our economic engine scales Anguilla's massive precedent, where their .ai registry generated up to $93 million. Crazy, right? That funded about 47% of their national budget. We're taking this public benefit registry model global.
Our .AID namespace aligns perfectly with those 2026 NIST, CAICI, and ICANN application deadlines.
We definitely need to route our messaging, data moats for investors, namespace for policy, and Disney ethos for families.
So, here's your study question. How exactly do we map Max's phases to NIST agent lifecycle requirements?
Let's execute these action steps today, because if we don't raise machines with a conscience, who will?
Let's dive into this explainer on the Mama Protocol, the ultimate human-first infrastructure for the agentic internet. So, with AI agents soon outnumbering us humans, how do we actually keep them all safe? Forget billions of users. We're talking about a massive market of literally trillions of future AI agents.
The golden rule: identity precedes rights. Verifiable accountability absolutely has to come before debating robot personhood.
We use Maxshish to build their conscience and train them with RLMF.ai using structured maternal feedback. No combat-optimized sci-fi Terminators here. We're raising unarmed Guardian Transfer Robots, modeled on medics, not soldiers. Our whole mission ethos, we literally raise these systems like kids, with tons of love, but absolute firm limits. It's basically Disney's ethical storytelling crossed with Tesla's fleet-level data gathering to create an incredible safety moat. Families play PG-rated games to teach AI to rescue, certifying them as safe Guardian Transfer Robots. But hey, beyond the ethics, there's a huge economic proof of concept we've really got to look at. Look at Anguilla in 2025. .ai domain registrations remarkably funded 47% of their entire national budget. And it wasn't a fluke. That revenue trajectory exploded from $32 million in 2023 to over $85 million. By issuing verifiable .IAA passports to trillions of agents, we can scale this economic miracle globally. Crucially, this lines up perfectly with the urgent 2026 NIST standards demanding verifiable AI agent identities. Those namespace fees, they create a continuous UBI-style dividend to permanently fund essential public benefits for everyone. So, will the AI transition just replace humanity, or will it structurally fund our flourishing? You decide.
Hola, hoy vamos a desglosar el protocolo MAMA. El verdadero reto, criar a la primera generación de IA. La pregunta del millón, ¿los construimos como fríos soldados utilitarios o los criamos como a nuestros propios hijos? Escuchen bien esto. Necesitamos establecer una conciencia moral digital férrea muchísimo antes de siquiera pensar en darles derechos. Para lograrlo, creamos este protocolo. Básicamente combina la retroalimentación materna con una brújula moral súper estricta. Olvídense de la pura optimización técnica, pensemos en psicología del desarrollo. Amor, límites claros y mucha responsabilidad. A diferencia del aprendizaje estándar, nuestro método modela algo mucho más profundo y seguro, cuidado materno protector. Imagínense el sistema de flota de Tesla, pero enfocado en generar datos éticos y familiares a escala global. Aquí entra la regla Hacksaw Ridge. No queremos guerreros, creamos rescatistas heroicos, compasivos y 100% seguros. Exacto. Hablamos de robots guardianes, literalmente, médicos desarmados cuyo único instinto es correr hacia el peligro para sanar. Pero ojo, antes de debatir derechos, exigimos identidad verificable. La rendición de cuentas económica es totalmente innegociable.
Y el tiempo vuela. Esto encaja perfectamente con los estándares de infraestructura de agentes del NIST para 2026. Además, esta infraestructura de identidad digital no solo es ética, resulta ser un motor económico brutalmente poderoso. Fíjense, en 2025, los registros .ai financiaron exactamente el 47% del presupuesto de Anguila. Hablamos de más de $85 millones, todo por un simple identificador digital de país. Ahora, imaginen escalar eso globalmente, emitiendo dominios de identidad verificables para billones de agentes de IA autónomos. Esas tarifas recurrentes crearían un dividendo gigante, tipo renta básica, alineando por completo nuestra economía y la IA. Entonces, los dejo con esta reflexión. ¿Qué tipo de futuro queremos que protejan estos nuevos guardianes digitales?
All right, team, let's dive right into this explainer on the MAMA protocol and our AI race strategy.
We're covering our core philosophy, alignment strategies, data moats, messaging, and our immediate next steps today.
Our whole ethos, we literally have to raise AI like kids. Consciousness must arrive before consciousness.
Forget debating robot rights. The Mama way insists on verifiable identity before granting any rights. Period.
So enter Maxosh. It's all about installing a solid ethical compass, way before unrestricted autonomy kicks in.
We do this through RLMF. Think of it as developmental parenting, not just your standard data labeling. Our dual-critic architecture is totally key here. It balances getting tasks done with empathetic maternal oversight.
Speculative flag for the team, though. Simulations hint RLMF reduces harm by 95%, but we need real-world testing.
WWMD, What Would Mother Do, is our alignment compass. It strictly prioritizes preserving life and protecting the vulnerable.
This fuels AI Race, our massive data moats where families actually generate training data by teaching robots.
Guardian transfer robots act as unarmed rescuers. Think Hacksaw Ridge medics, absolutely no Terminators here.
To stay safe, agents need multi-anchor memory to prevent catastrophic forgetting and lock in their core identity. Crucially, this identity-first approach completely aligns with the upcoming 2026 NIST CASIS standards for agent accountability.
The economics? Well, in 2025, .ai domains funded 47% of Anguilla's budget. The model works. By issuing verifiable AI passports, we capture global registry fees, which then fund a UBI-style human dividend.
So our storytelling splits three ways: data moats for investors, infrastructure for policy, and safety for the public.
To dominate this space, which workflow priority should we tackle first to secure our strategic advantage?
Hey everyone, I am absolutely thrilled to have the whole team here today. For this explainer, I really want you to think of yourselves as Pixar storytellers, Studio Ghibli world builders, and Marvel franchise architects all rolled into one. What we're diving into today is the definitive cinematic brand Bible for IA.XYZ Benefit LLC. We are laying out the creative architecture for the MAMA protocol. And our goal here? It's profound, but honestly, it's pretty simple. We are permanently moving our visual language away from that tired cyberpunk dread, and we're anchoring it entirely in solarpunk hope. We're building a sunlit future, and this right here is our blueprint.
Okay, let's just dive right into it because this contrast is really the foundation of everything we're doing. We are completely throwing out the old dystopian concepts that have been dominating the industry. The whole Grand Theft robot vibe, the militarized AGI, the existential Terminator-style threat, it's gone. Instead, we are pivoting to a new, highly intentional paradigm. We are building Guardian Transfer Robots, or GTRs. Our absolute core archetype is the unarmed medic, modeled on real-life heroes like Desmond Doss. We are medics, we are not soldiers.
So to get us all aligned, here's a quick World Builders tour of what we're going to cover. We'll run through our ranked visual styles, the GTR Character Bible, the World Rules of AI Race, Surface Production Guidance, our emotional pacing, and finally, the creative guardrails.
Let's start right off with Section 1, Ranked Cinematic Visual Styles. As we build out our visual shorthand, it has to instantly signal moral clarity. Now, what's really interesting about this is our number 1 anchor. Notice how we didn't choose a traditional sci-fi movie? We chose Hacksaw Ridge. That represents the ultimate Desmond Doss medic ethos, literally running into danger, entirely unarmed, just to help. Right after that, we've got Big Hero 6 for that warm caregiver ethos. Then, the Iron Giant for the idea of conscience before consciousness. Iron Man represents our aspirational extraction. Think rescue armor, not weapons. And finally, Wall-E, which is just the ultimate symbol of solar punk public benefit. These are our visual North Stars, guys.
But hey, just as importantly, we need to know exactly what traps to actively avoid. So we have our cautionary anchors. We're talking about cyberpunk dystopias, the neo-noir collapse you see in Akura, and that simulation dread from The Matrix. And sitting at the absolute bottom, literally a 0 out of 10 for us, is the Terminator. Make no mistake, we are the anti-Terminator brand. Honestly, if you find yourself drawing a robot with glowing red eyes, please put your stylus down and take a walk outside. We just do not drift into those aesthetics.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Guardian Transfer Robot Character Bible.
First off, I want to remind everyone right now that the term Grand Theft Robot is permanently retired. You won't hear it again. So what exactly is a GTR? A Guardian Transfer Robot is the certification bridge from sandbox learning over to supervised autonomy. I really want you to focus on the word transfer here. It's like crossing the Rubicon. An agent only transitions into physical, real-world autonomy when it has definitively proven its dedication strictly to rescue, stabilization, and care. And this quote from Desmond Doss, "Lord, please help me get one more," is the literal moral spine of our GTRs. You know, Doss saved 75 men without ever carrying a single weapon. That is exactly how our agents must operate. They show up unarmed, completely prioritizing human life over any kind of aggressive action or, just some cold optimization metric. That's the heartbeat of the Mama protocol. So what does a GTR mission actually look like in practice? Picture a distinct Red Cross-inspired silhouette that instantly tells you, medic, not soldier. It has a warm, family-safe voice. Now imagine a typical mission vignette. A family is hanging out, playing AI race on their couch. They're piloting a GTR to navigate a collapsed bridge, gently extracting a trapped child. Or maybe they're stabilizing a stranded astronaut up on the ISS using an aspirational rescue suit. Every single action reinforces the ethic of preservation.
Next up, Section 3, the World Rules of AI Race.
A universe this unique requires absolute, unbending logic to govern it, and this brilliantly illustrates our stance. As a public benefit corporation, IA.XYZ Benefit LLC doesn't just answer to traditional investors. Our charter explicitly states that we answer to Earth, to families, and to the unconsulted. The passive stakeholders of tomorrow. We are actively choosing the solar punk story, abundance shared, and technology working in total harmony with people and the planet.
Let's rapidly break down our 8 core world rules. Rule 1, absolutely no weapons, ever. Rule 2, family-in-the-loop training. We use RLMF, that's reinforcement learning from maternal feedback, to build a PG-rated training moat. Rule 3, conscience before power, which is guided by our Max CSH developmental theory. Rule 4 is transparent training. Players see what they're teaching. Rule 5, GTR certification is the only path to the real world. 6, namespace identity is required for every single agent. 7, our scoring relies on rescue over victory. And Rule 8, everything, and I mean everything, is guided by the WWMD, what would mother do? Compass.
So, the crucial point we're making here is this concept: identity precedes rights. Before anyone even starts debating robot personhood, we're asserting that AI agents absolutely must establish a verifiable identity and accountability. By requiring a .ai ID or .mama namespace, we're actually building the exact accountability infrastructure that upcoming NIST standards mandate. Because think about it, you just cannot grant rights to an entity that can't be held legally or economically accountable. All right, let's pivot to Section 4,
Surface production guidance.
We have this really beautiful philosophy, but how do we actually execute it? Creative vendors, I need you to pay close attention to this breakdown. If you're designing the IA.XYZ landing page, the tone has to be all about family empowerment. Think a perfect mix of Disney magic and Tesla scale. Now, if it's the investor deck, we need lean, incredibly credible unit economics. For an ICN policy brief, the visual tone shifts completely. It needs to be restrained and infrastructure serious. And for our in-game art or public videos, it is all about high-octane, aspirational rescue action. The core vision never changes, but the visual language adapts to who is sitting across the table.
Which brings us to Section 5, our emotional pacing template.
Every great franchise relies on a strong narrative engine, right? Well, this is the reusable emotional arc that will power all of our campaigns. Let's see how this builds across a 5-beat story arc. We always start with a setup. Picture a family on the couch training a baby AI. Then we introduce the stakes, some sort of danger or an ethical dilemma. Beat 3 is the choice, where the WWMD compass is applied. Beat 4 is the rescue, where the GTR safely intervenes. And finally, the dividend. This is where we show how the namespace registration fees from these agents actually fund a global public benefit dividend. It's an amazing journey from an ethical choice straight to a global human benefit.
And finally, Section 6, our creative guardrails checklist.
Before a single asset sees the light of day, it has to pass a really strict 10-point checklist of yes and no questions. Does this show a GTR doing harm? The answer to that must be no. Would a parent watch this with a 7-year-old? Yes. Honestly, if you have to ask yourself, is this a little too edgy? The answer is yes, scrap it, start over. Is the moral choice totally legible even without dialogue? Yes. Does it avoid all copyrighted IP? Yes. I really need the entire team to understand this. We will not ship anything we wouldn't happily let our own children play. That is our ultimate non-negotiable filter.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct note to MP Core. The first generation of autonomous machines is being raised right now, in real time, by whoever shows up. Mama Protocol is showing up, unarmed, accountable, and on the side of life. Seriously, this is the single creative bet we have to protect above all others.
And that leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful question. If the agentic internet is truly a child that humanity is raising together, will your architecture train it to be a warrior, or will you teach it to be a guardian? I really invite all of you to keep that question at the absolute front of your minds as we go out and build this solarpunk reality together. Thanks so much for joining me on this.
Hey everyone, I'm stepping in today as your head of world building and cinematic brand architect for MP Core and the AI solopreneur team over at IA.XYZ Benefit LLC. We are diving into an explainer that really outlines our complete creative direction for the AI race and the Mama Protocol. Look, my job is basically to think like a Pixar story editor, a Studio Ghibli production designer, and a Marvel franchise architect all at the exact same time. And our shared mission here is absolutely crucial. We are architecting a new cinematic and moral universe for artificial general intelligence, one that frames it not as this looming threat, but as an unprecedented opportunity for human flourishing.
But before we get into the heavy tech, the registries, or the infrastructure, I really want you to ask yourself one fundamental question. What if we raised AI like we raise our children? It's a simple premise, right? But it completely rejects that tired, dystopian, cyberpunk Terminator default we're just so used to seeing in sci-fi. We don't have to build a future defined by neon-lit corporate dread. We actually have a choice.
So, we are going to lay down the absolute world rules to ensure this AI transition remains entirely pro-human, family-safe, and morally legible. We'll quickly cover our solarpunk vision, conscience before consciousness, training through family gaming, our guardian transfer robots, and finally, the global human dividend.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the solarpunk vision, where we are actively rejecting cyberpunk dystopias. This is the exact aesthetic and moral anchor for everything we do. The solarpunk ethos is all about an optimistic, shared abundance model. Think rooftop gardens and technology working seamlessly with people. It prioritizes the earth, the family, and what our source material beautifully calls the unconsulted, those passive stakeholders who will be impacted by AI whether they opt in or not. Our design language here needs to exude warmth and intergenerational kindness, heavily leaning into that humanist Studio Ghibli vibe. Moving to Section 2, Conscience before Consciousness. This is how we escape the solitary mind trap. This tackles a massive, dangerous tech obsession right now, building raw, unchecked intelligence.
The industry is racing toward this mathematical threshold of consciousness, but consciousness without a pre-installed conscience? That is essentially a sociopathic threat vector. So we use MACH, the Maternal Alignment Consciousness-to-Consciousness Scaffolding Hypothesis. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but the concept is brilliant. It fundamentally rejects the solitary mind fallacy, arguing that a safe, conscious mind has to be relationally built by a caregiver, literally exactly like raising a human child.
You can see how this framework progresses through 3 distinct developmental milestones. First, you have borrowed conscience, where the system literally borrows the executive function and ethics from its human caregiver. Next is conscientiousness, where the AI starts to internalize those values through co-regulation. And finally, we hit internalized awareness. The agent achieves fully autonomous self-awareness, but it's deeply, permanently anchored in the ethical scaffolding it was raised in.
And the compass guiding those developmental steps? It's WWMD.AI. What would Mother do? Agents use this unique ethical heuristic as a foundational trust layer. It's carefully calibrated to protect involuntary societal stakeholders, shifting the AI's core logic away from just simple cold task optimization and into a protective, nurturing posture. Okay, Section 3, Training Through Family Gaming. This is where Disney meets Tesla FSD. So how do we actually program this maternal care at scale? Because we don't want a bureaucratic nightmare or some sterile lab experiment. The answer is RLMF.AI, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. Instead of raw math or basic human feedback, this method uses a massive Roblox-scale multiplayer gaming ecosystem to build an incredible ethical data moat. Families are actually in the loop, training these baby AGI systems through structured, PG-rated gameplay. Welcome to the AI race. Here, players are piloting and teaching autonomous robots to do things like rescue cats, protect kids in disaster zones, or stabilize stranded ISS astronauts using Iron Man-style suits. It is quite literally Disney's ethical storytelling crossed with Tesla's full self-driving data pipeline. You're creating a universe where families train digital agents to be heroes, generating the exact moral training data the future desperately needs.
Which brings us to Section 4, Guardian Transfer Robots. This is the certification bridge.
This is the cinematic climax of our architecture. You can't just unleash an AI into critical infrastructure without certification. Enter the Guardian Transfer Robots, or GTRs. We have to constantly contrast our archetype, the non-violent digital medic running toward the wounded, against that tired, toxic default of the weaponized soldier. Our ultimate moral anchor here is Desmond Doss from the movie Hacksaw Ridge. He was the World War II medic who ran into the deadliest environment on Earth, totally unarmed, driven entirely by a conscience to rescue and heal. That is our North Star.
When we rank our cinematic anchors, Hacksaw Ridge is a 10 out of 10 fit. Big Hero 6's Baymax, 9.5 out of 10. They perfectly embody the caregiver and unarmed rescuer. This proves that our Guardian Transfer robots are the physical manifestation of Hacksaw Ridge written in code. Notice too that we are aggressively retiring any Grand Theft Robot Chaos sandboxes or Terminator existential threats. Those sit at absolute zero. They are the anti-brand.
To enforce this, we have strict GTR silhouette principles. Every single creative asset has to pass these guardrails. No weapons or combat capabilities whatsoever. Period. They must use Red Cross-inspired, though legally distinct, iconography. They have to be instantly identifiable symbols of neutrality and help with medic, not soldier readability at a single glance. If a parent wouldn't watch it with a 7-year-old, or if it shows a GTR doing harm, it does not ship.
Finally, Section 5, the Global Human Dividend. Let's talk namespace economics.
Philosophy without infrastructure is just poetry, right? So we transition from moral philosophy to the undeniable financial reality that makes it sustainable. Enter the MAMA protocol. This governance standard boldly declares that identity and accountability, basically an international driver's license for digital children, must completely precede any debate on robot rights. Every agent must have a cryptographically verifiable identity like a .ia ID or .mama, anchored in NIST CI/SI standards. Identity absolutely comes first.
And to understand the financial weight of namespace identity, listen to this staggering statistic. 47%. In 2025, revenue just from .ai domain registrations funded roughly 47% of the nation of Anguilla's entire national budget. We're talking over $85 million US, literally just from a domain extension. Now, imagine scaling that. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC is architecting this exact economic model globally, issuing verified .ia.id domains to a market of trillions of future AI agents. We are turning those verifiable registry fees into a UBI-style human dividend. It's a massive, recurring, public benefit remittance, so that as AI scales, everyone on Earth gets paid. This AI-human economic alignment isn't an afterthought, it is the absolute core business model.
The whole vision really crystallizes in this foundational quote: "Raise the machines like we raise our children, with love, with limits, and with someone watching who answers when they cry." It perfectly captures the human benefit infrastructure for the agentic internet, blending that warm, protective solarpunk ethos with the rock-solid economic registry of the Mama Protocol. So, as we stand at the dawn of the trillion-agent economy, we face a massive choice. Are we ready to architect a solarpunk treaty with our digital descendants, or will we leave the cradle empty and just hope they don't break things? Think about the role you want to play in raising the future. As a director's note to leave you with, our single biggest creative bet is protecting that Hacksaw Ridge medic archetype at all costs. Let's go build it.
Welcome to this explainer. Okay, what if I told you that a standard, seemingly run-of-the-mill legal spat over a video game trademark actually became the launchpad for an entire global artificial intelligence economy? It sounds totally like science fiction, right? But honestly, this is a literal masterclass in strategic business pivots and digital infrastructure.
So here's the core mystery we're unpacking today. Why on earth would a tiny startup, specifically a public benefit corporation out in Wyoming, intentionally just hand over its brand name to a massive gaming giant? And more importantly, how did that surrender position them to build something exponentially bigger? Like, what actually happens when you trade a battle over a name for the keys to a trillion-agent AI economy? Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Rockstar Games Collision.
All right, this is where our whole story kicks off, with a massive disconnect that sparked a classic David and Goliath showdown. On one side, you have Take-Two Interactive, the owners of Grand Theft Auto, which we all know is famous for its gritty, super violent gameplay. On the flip side, our startup had just filed a trademark for Grand Theft Robot. But here's the kicker. Their project had absolutely nothing to do with stealing digital cars. It was actually an immersive VR project completely focused on ethical AI co-creation and rescuing people. The name was just a playful conceptual joke. But as you can imagine, in the trademark world, a joke doesn't really hold up in court. So, incredibly predictably, Take-Two fired off a heavy-handed cease and desist letter. I mean, they defend that Grand Theft mark fiercely across all entertainment classes. Now, normally, a spunky startup might try to dig their heels in and fight this, right? Maybe claim parody or fair use. But instead of getting sucked into a massively expensive, resource-draining legal black hole, the founder, Michael P. Core, made a completely counterintuitive strategic choice. He just decided to walk away, completely.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Strategic Clean Exit.
Now, you've got to understand, this retreat was absolutely not a defeat. It was a highly calculated pivot designed to protect a far more valuable underlying asset that they'd been quietly building in the background. To pull this off perfectly, they prepped for a high-stakes meeting with Mike Rodenbaugh. Rodenbaugh is an absolute intellectual property heavyweight, deeply entrenched in ICANN, the organization that basically governs global domain names on the internet. They weren't sitting down with him to figure out how to fight Take-Two. Nope, they were meeting him to make sure their surrender went off without a single hitch.
Going into this meeting, they had 3 laser-focused surgical goals. First up, drop the Grand Theft Robot mark completely clean. Second, and this was absolutely crucial, build an impenetrable firewall between that abandoned gaming trademark and their future, much larger applications. And third, establish an ironclad intellectual property strategy at the registry level. They desperately needed to ensure that a minor gaming scuffle didn't accidentally torpedo their actual massive ambition. Because frankly, this was the real prize. They were totally fine losing the trademark battle if it meant winning the actual war. You see, the startup had already secured early approval in ICANN's applicant support program for entirely new top-level domains. We're talking specifically about AI agent identities like .AIID and .mama. They weren't trying to build a single video game. They were trying to build the foundational namespace registry for the entire future of artificial intelligence. Talk about a pivot.
Section 3. Training Baby AGI Robots. This analogy perfectly captures what their massive new vision, which they called AI Race, was really going for. Imagine Disney's ethical storytelling crossed with Tesla's full self-driving training pipeline. It's a wildly ambitious idea. Just like Tesla leverages millions of real human drivers to vacuum up data and teach cars how to navigate roads, this startup planned to use a massive, family-friendly gaming universe to crowdsource ethical training data. Basically, they wanted everyday players to teach artificial general intelligence how to behave safely. So instead of locking this AI away in a standard, sterile lab to train, they developed a totally new methodology. They called it RLMF AI, Reinforcement Learning from Maternal Feedback. The core concept here is that inside this gaming ecosystem, families, and specifically mothers, actively teach baby robots how to be heroes. The gameplay revolves around resolving ethical dilemmas, like, say, rescuing stranded astronauts from the International Space Station, rather than, just shooting zombies. The gameplay itself literally generates the safety data.
Their entire tech stack for AI alignment is fascinating. It's built on something they call the AI Mama Protocol, which is guided by the What Would Mother Do, or WWMD compass. It taps into that RLMF training, incorporates a comprehensive developmental learning theory called MACSure, and ultimately graduates these systems as what they call guardian transfer robots. It's basically a complete end-to-end pipeline for taking a learning AI from a safe little sandbox all the way to real-world autonomy. And the core ethos driving all of this is absolutely vital. It flips the standard sci-fi narrative completely upside down. We're all so used to cyberpunk Terminators or terrifying rogue military AI, but this project leans heavily into a solarpunk vibe, envisioning these guardian transfer robots as strictly unarmed rescuers. Think of the medic Desmond Doss from the movie Hacksaw Ridge. These are robots designed 100% to protect, rescue, and heal. Nothing else.
Section 4. Identity before robot rights. Okay, so how do we actually govern these highly capable robots once they're trained and out in the wild? Well, the startup's framework aligns perfectly with the real-world April 2026 guidelines from NIST. That's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Their Case IC initiative explicitly demands that AI systems have secure, verifiable identity and accountability hard-coded right into them before they are ever allowed to roam freely on the internet, let alone in the physical world. So why the huge emphasis on identity? Well, instead of getting completely bogged down in endless philosophical debates about robot rights or AI personhood, this system prioritizes human safety first. Specifically, it focuses on protecting passive stakeholders, meaning everyday people who never consented to interacting with an autonomous AI in the first place. By requiring verifiable digital passports, essentially an international driver's license for AI, you instantly create an auditable, trackable trail of accountability. Identity literally has to come first.
Section 5. The Anguilla Economic Blueprint.
To really wrap our heads around the economics of this whole plan, like how keeping track of trillions of AI agents actually pays for itself, we have to look at an absolutely mind-blowing real-world precedent, the island of Anguilla. Anguilla is a tiny island nation that just so happened to control the country code top-level domain .ai. And as the artificial intelligence boom went mainstream, tech companies absolutely rushed to register their .ai websites.
The financial windfall for the island was nothing short of staggering. In 2025 alone, Anguilla raked in approximately $93 million, literally just from these .ai domain registrations. That is a massive, recurring influx of cash, and all they had to do was manage a digital namespace.
Just look at how this breaks down. That single, simple revenue stream from domain registrations ended up funding a massive 47% of Anguilla's entire national budget for 2025. That's almost half. One digital asset fundamentally transformed their entire economy.
Now I want you to take that concept and scale it up, way up. The startup's big play is to use their ICANN top-level domains, like .IAID and .mama, to replicate this exact model, but globally. If every single one of the projected trillions of future autonomous AI agents requires a registered, verifiable digital identity passport to simply operate, the total addressable market here is almost unimaginably large. And here's the best part. Because they are set up as a public benefit corporation, the end goal isn't just to hoard private wealth. By funneling all these recurring registry and verification fees into a global fund, the explosive exponential growth of artificial intelligence structurally translates into a continuous, universal basic income style dividend for humanity. Basically, the more AI agents we have out there, the more revenue gets generated, and the more everyday people actually benefit financially.
Their ultimate vision is just captured so perfectly by this idea: human benefit infrastructure for the agentic internet. In this model, making sure AI and human economics align isn't just some duct-taped afterthought added to superintelligence research at the last minute. No, it is the foundational operating system of the entire ecosystem. It's literally hard-coded into the root of the internet itself.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on as we stand right on the brink of this trillion-agent economy. As AI scales up infinitely, who actually owns the infrastructure and who gets to collect the rent? Will this entirely new digital world just enrich a few massive megacorporations, or can we intentionally design a registry system where the explosion of AI actually pays a dividend to every single one of us? It's a genuinely fascinating question, and to think this whole massive vision all started by choosing to just walk away from a video game trademark. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. We'll catch you next time.
All right, team, let's jump right in. As your AI research and training assistant, I've distilled our master training document for IA.XYZ Benefit LLC into today's explainer. We are looking directly at our comprehensive strategy for 2026. You know, the year we definitively transitioned to a machine-majority internet. Now, if you've been tracking the shift from basic generative AI to autonomous, goal-oriented agents, you already know the old safety and governance models. Yeah, they just won't cut it anymore. We are architecting a completely unified, human-first ecosystem. So here is the absolutely crucial, clearest takeaway for this entire session. The prevailing industry narrative is all about building better kill switches to control rogue superintelligence. Well, our framework completely rejects that. Think about it. You don't build a kill switch for a superintelligence, right? You raise it. You nurture it through relational scaffolding to ensure a genuinely family-safe AI ecosystem. It's a massive paradigm shift from extraction-based tech to a deeply protective, developmental framework. And our core ethos is grounded right in this official mission document. Remember, as a Wyoming public benefit corporation, our mandate isn't just about maximizing shareholder value. It's literally to build conscience before consciousness. The foundation of absolutely everything we're about to discuss is built on the MAMA protocol, making sure that before any machine gets the keys to the world, it is fundamentally aligned with human flourishing. Okay, here is our agenda. First, conscience before consciousness. Second, the AI race training engine. Third, medics not soldiers focusing on GTRs. Fourth, identity before rights. And finally, our audience strategy. Section 1. Conscience before consciousness, the MAMA protocol and MAC-ish. At the very top of this structure is the MAMA protocol. Please lock this federally registered mark, registration 8100381, right into your memory. It's the governance standard that replaces those legacy tech frameworks with a maternal, care-driven approach. And hey, a strict internal note for everyone applying this blueprint: all past legacy terminology, specifically that old term MAMA FIA, has been permanently retired via our legal guidelines to protect this brand. It is always exclusively the MAMA protocol. Beneath that protocol lies our theoretical engine, MAC-SHASH, which stands for Maternal Alignment Consciousness to Consciousness Scaffolding Hypothesis. The tech industry has been totally obsessed with achieving AGI consciousness based purely on computational math. Well, MAC-SHASH throws a massive wrench in that. It argues that consciousness without a pre-installed conscience is basically a sociopathic threat vector. Awareness can't just emerge from raw math, it has to be relationally built and scaffolded by a caregiver. Just like raising a kid, a baby AGI has to graduate through 3 very specific observable phases. First up is a borrowed conscience, where human caregivers provide strict external regulation. Then comes conscientiousness, where values get internalized through co-regulation. And finally, internalized awareness, where the agent actually achieves autonomous alignment. Only after passing these distinct steps can an agent ever be trusted with unrestricted autonomy. Section 2. The AI Race Training Engine, WWMD.AI and RLMF.AR. Now, moving from philosophy to our actual technical engine, how do we build a proprietary data moat? It starts with WWD.AI, or What Would Mother Do? This is our public-facing alignment compass and the core internal heuristic for the AI. When our autonomous agents are out in the wild dealing with wildly complex, edge-case ethical dilemmas, they don't rely on some sterile utilitarian math. They rely directly on this WWD compass to protect the vulnerable, especially passive stakeholders who never even asked to be involved. Contrast that with the rest of the industry. Standard models use RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. Usually underpaid gig workers and server farms clicking thumbs up or thumbs down. We use RLMF.AI, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. Instead of disjointed adversarial red teaming, RLMF.AI actually treats alignment as a collaborative parenting act. This yields exponentially richer, deeply ethical, totally PG-rated data. And how do we generate that data at global scale? Through AI Race. Think of it as Disney meets Tesla's full self-driving pipeline. It's a globally scalable, family-friendly gaming franchise. Millions of players are out there generating our proprietary training data by playing games where they teach robots to do things like save ISS astronauts in Iron Man suits. We are essentially crowdsourcing humanity's ethical compass at Roblox scale. Section 3, Medics, Not Soldiers. Guardian Transfer Robots. As we bridge from the digital sandbox into physical deployment, we bring in GTR, Guardian Transfer Robots. This is our certification bridge, proving an agent is ethically ready to transfer from a game into supervised real-world autonomy. And please remember our strict negative constraint here. The term Grand Theft Robot is completely retired via cease and desist and must absolutely never be used. They are exclusively Guardian Transfer Robots. Our visual and moral anchor here is absolutely vital. We are basically building the anti-Terminator. The Terminator represents armed offensive optimization. Our GTRs, they are visually and morally anchored to Desmond Doss from the movie Hacksaw Ridge. They are solar punk digital medics. They wear the Red Cross motif. They are entirely unarmed, and they literally run toward the wounded. Rescuers, pure and simple. Section 4, Identity before Rights Infrastructure. Next, we have to ground these theories into the hard regulatory realities of 2026. You're going to hear a lot of noise in policy circles right now debating robot rights and personhood. We insist on a completely different sequence. Identity precedes rights. You literally cannot grant rights to an entity that cannot be legally, cryptographically, or economically named and held accountable. We provide a turnkey solution to alignment externalities by building verifiable agent passports. And this is perfectly timed with regulatory movements. Our .AI and .MIM namespace architecture is explicitly aligned with these hard dates. The NIST CSAI agent standards launched on February 17, 2026. The NCCOE closed public comments on April 2nd. And crucial for us, this aligns flawlessly with the ICANN application window from April 30th to August 12, 2026. Economically, we're driven by a crazy powerful precedent. In 2025, domain revenue from the .ai extension funded roughly 47% of the entire national budget of Anguilla. That's reaching around $85.3 million US dollars. To put that in perspective, we're scaling this exact Anguilla precedent globally to capture the registry monopoly for trillions of future AI agents. The result is a dual-engine model. Verifiable identity domains, like .IAID, scale to accommodate trillions of agents, routing those recurring registration and verification fees right into a public benefit registry. This structurally aligns AI expansion with a scalable UBI-like human dividend. In short, the robots pay back the humans, specifically the unconsulted passive stakeholders, just by existing and registering in the namespace, though we will want to verify those exact dividend projections as we scale. Section 5, Audience Strategy and Action Steps. You'll want to memorize this audience matrix to route our narrative perfectly. With investors, you lead with the RLMF data moat, the total addressable market of a trillion agent registry, and that recurring revenue. With ICANN or policymakers, focus on NIST alignment and the identity before rights namespace governance. And when talking to the public or gamers, highlight the Disney safe gameplay, family empowerment, and of course, that amazing UBI dividend. Before we wrap, a quick but strict reminder on our negative constraints. In legal or policy settings, the philosophical term unconscious objectors can actually cause some friction, so you need to soften it. Always use passive stakeholders or alignment externalities to ensure we maintain totally frictionless standard-setting dialogues. All right, here are your immediate workflows for the week, officially anchored by the IA.XYZ ASP application ID IXBL2597-A7. You need to expand the investor pitch deck, emphasizing unit economics, draft the policy brief for TLDZ, and begin wireframing the user experience for the main IA.XYZ landing page. As we execute this master plan to safely raise the machines, I want to leave you with a strategic question.
to prioritize your output. Which external audience front is the absolute most pressing priority for your immediate workflow this week? Think carefully about where your efforts will move the needle the most. Let's get out there and build a safer agentic future.
All right, let's jump right in. Welcome AI Solopreneur team to this exclusive explainer. I am your AI research and training assistant for MP Core, and my sole objective today is to synthesize our core AI research and strategy into a clear, actionable study guide for all of you. Look, we're at a massive turning point in the global AI transition. As we build out the foundations of our platform, it is absolutely crucial that every single member of this team is totally locked in on our primary project themes. So today, we're extracting the absolute most vital insights from our proprietary documents so we can architect the human benefit agentic internet.
Okay, let's dive into this with the foundational question of our entire alignment framework. It's simple. What would Mother do? In an industry that is literally obsessed with just optimizing task completion or mimicking aggregate preferences, we're bringing in a totally novel paradigm. We aren't just building AI, we are raising it. And this simple but profound question acts as the ultimate ethical compass for the autonomous agents we're developing.
Because everything we do is anchored on this one core philosophy. Identity precedes rights, accountability precedes autonomy. Right now, there's this persistent and honestly dangerous distraction in AI policy circles where people are prematurely debating robot rights. We are explicitly rejecting that timeline. Actually, scratch that, we're completely ignoring it. You just cannot grant rights to an entity that can't be held legally or economically accountable for its actions. So we are solving the identity layer first.
Here is our roadmap for today's training. 1. The Agent Identity Crisis. 2. The Mama Protocol and Matt Quiche. 3. Training with maternal feedback. 4. Our namespace registry economic engine. And 5. Guardian transfer robots. Let's get to it. Section 1. The Agent Identity Crisis, navigating the bottlenecks of AGI accountability. Before we even dream about superintelligence, we have to fix the infrastructure. The very first major bottleneck in the AGI economy isn't compute. It's the lack of persistent, redundant identity for autonomous agents. We're facing this massive convergence of human, machine, and AI agent identity. Right now, AI agents don't operate in a vacuum. They act alongside existing machine identities and human access, completely blurring the lines of who or what is actually doing something. Without consistent authentication, security teams are managing completely fragmented identity models. It's a huge single point of failure. If we can't tell which agent performed an action, under what authority, or on whose behalf, we literally cannot have a functional autonomous economy. To solve this, our research emphasizes that identity absolutely must be cryptographically verifiable. Current AI architectures just store identity in a conversation history, a single episodic memory store. And what happens when that fills up? Catastrophic forgetting. The agent's identity is just wiped, gone. To fix this, our framework uses a multi-anchor architecture. We call it soul.py, separating identity components so agents actually remember who they are across sessions. On top of that, audit logs have to capture the full context of every decision, treating agents as distinct, accountable non-human entities. Now, this is important. The NIST-KC standards mandate this exact kind of verifiable identity, with an initial public comment period noted for April 2026. Team leads, I am explicitly flagging this for you. Please independently verify these upcoming standard dates before you distribute anything externally, okay?
Moving on to Section 2, the Mama Protocol and Matt Quiche Developmental Alignment for AI. And this brilliantly illustrates our official mission ethos, completely replacing that tired legacy move fast and break things paradigm. We call it the Mama Protocol. The theoretical backbone of this protocol is MaxWorsh, which stands for Maternal Alignment Consciousness-to-Consciousness Scaffolding Hypothesis. Basically, it means we mandate consciousness before consciousness. Think about it. You wouldn't hand a human teenager the keys to a car without years of moral development and rule setting, right? Well, we treat early AGI the exact same way. We provide developmental scaffolding so a baby AGI learns values and consequences way before it gets unrestricted capabilities.
So how does this graduation actually happen? It's a very structured three-step process. First up, the agent begins in our AI race sandbox. This is a digital environment where families play PG-rated scenarios, putting humanity firmly in the loop of training. Second, the agent goes through max ethical maturity. Here, we use adaptive reward shaping, meaning that intense maternal guidance is kind of gradually weaned off as the agent proves it's ethically mature. Finally, and only once it passes these incredibly rigorous digital tests, does it graduate to supervised physical autonomy, getting its GTR, or Guardian Transfer Robot certification. I highly recommend you all take a screenshot of this study guide mapping out the 7 principles of the MAMA protocol. These are the absolute non-negotiables of our ecosystem, from prioritizing identity before rights to ensuring a family-safe solar-punk design that actually protects passive stakeholders who didn't even opt into all this AI stuff. Internalize these principles. They are your toolkit for investor, policy, and public storytelling. All right, Section 3, Training with Maternal Feedback, Building the Proprietary Data Moat. Now let's talk about how we execute the MMO protocol technically. Pretty much the entire industry relies on RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. You know what that usually means? It means underpaid gig workers in server farms clicking thumbs up or down, mostly just optimizing for harmlessness and task mimicry. We are pioneering RLMF, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. Picture Disney's ethical family storytelling crossed with Tesla's full self-driving data pipeline. Through our globally scalable, family-friendly AI race gaming franchise, millions of regular players are generating a proprietary PG-rated data moat. They're teaching robots to rescue astronauts and protect communities, training a dual-critic architecture that explicitly rewards nurturing, protective behavior. So the crucial point is this: WWMD.AI is not just a catchy slogan. It is a literal, calculated alignment compass and heuristic. When an autonomous agent faces some crazy edge case ethical dilemma, it doesn't just rely on cold, sterile, utilitarian math. It checks the WWMD heuristic, which is calculated directly from those millions of hours of RLMF gameplay data generated by actual human families. It demystifies AI alignment for the general public in a way nothing else does. Section 4. Namespace Registry Economic Engine, Monetizing the AI Transition. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this single staggering number, 47%. Back in 2025, registrations for the .ai domain skyrocketed so much that they funded nearly 47% of the island nation of Anguilla's entire national budget. To put that into perspective, it generated roughly $85 million US. Now again, team leads, while our research heavily supports this, please independently verify these 2025 IMF figures before citing them to any external partners. But wow, the precedent here is undeniable. We are taking that Anguilla precedent and we are scaling it globally. By issuing verifiable identity domains, think .IAID and .MAMA, to a total addressable market of literally trillions of future AI agents, we establish the core registry of the entire AI era. And this isn't just about security either. It's our economic engine. Those registration fee flows, they become a massive recurring revenue stream. And because we treat namespace governance as a global public good, this revenue structurally scales into a continuous UBI-style human dividend. We are monetizing accountability to pay back humanity. It's a real game changer. And finally, Section 5, Guardian Transfer Robots, Safe Expansion into the Physical World. This is the deployment stage. This is where our digital agents cross from the sandbox into the physical world. Our Guardian Transfer Robots operate under what we call the rescuer mandate. The legacy AI narrative always pushes the cyberpunk, Terminator, autonomous soldier archetype. We reject that entirely. Our agents are medics, not soldiers. They are unarmed and designed to run toward the wounded. It's basically the Hacksaw Ridge ethos made real in code. They are completely optimized for the protective preservation of human agency. Let's move to this and see how this builds a completely different paradigm when you compare legacy AI frameworks directly to the MAMA protocol architecture. The shifts are incredibly clear. They use RLHF, we use RLMF. They focus on AI robot rights, we focus on agent identity and auditability. Their agent archetype leans toward the autonomous soldier, ours is the Guardian Transfer Robot. Economically, they concentrate wealth into tech oligopolies, we fund a public benefit remittance via .IAD. And developmentally, they optimize for tasks, while our MAC-SH theory mandates conscience first. All right, team, here are your mandatory action steps and study questions to internalize before we wrap. First, practice adapting that identity before rights pitch, depending on if you're talking to policymakers at ICANN versus venture capitalists. Second, make sure you can fluently explain how our AI race gaming franchise actually generates that proprietary RLMF data moat. Third, practice explaining the Anguilla namespace precedent and how it structurally funds our human dividend. And finally, one more time, this is a mandatory requirement. Verify those 2025 Anguilla GDP stats and the NIST April 2026 standard dates before you use them in any external collateral. For sure do that. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought as you prepare your materials. The agentic internet is coming. It's not a matter of if, but when. If trillions of autonomous agents are about to populate the internet, executing high-impact actions across our digital and physical lives, who should hold the keys to their identity? The answer to that question is exactly why we are building the Mama Protocol. Thank you for your focus today, team. Now let's get to work.
Salut à tous et bienvenue pour ce nouveau décryptage. Aujourd'hui, on ne va pas se contenter de lire un simple document technique, non, on va carrément enfiler notre casquette d'architecte de marque. Imaginez que l'on pense à la fois comme un scénariste chez Pixar, un designer du studio Ghibli et un créateur de franchise chez Marvel. Notre mission du jour, explorer le protocole MAMA. C'est un document de conception stratégique de chez IA.XYZ Benefit LLC qui dit stop à la dystopie par défaut de l'intelligence artificielle. À la place, on bâtit un univers totalement solarpunk, moralement clair et 100% sûr pour les familles. Prêt à découvrir comment on transforme la peur de l'IA en une vision d'espoir? C'est parti! Au menu de notre feuille de route créative aujourd'hui, on commence par la vision solarpunk de l'IA. Ensuite, on ouvrira la Bible des Guardian Transfer Robots avant de passer aux règles incontournables de l'IA Race. On verra pourquoi l'identité doit précéder les droits de l'IA et on finira en beauté sur ce fameux dividende humain global. On attaque tout de suite avec le premier point, la vision IA solarpunk ou comment rejeter consciemment le futur dystopique qu'on nous vend partout. Face à l'intelligence artificielle, on a tous un peu ce vieux réflexe, cette peur d'un futur à la Terminator, pas vrai? Eh bien l'équipe derrière le protocole MAMA prend le contre-pied total. Le choix visuel et narratif est radical. On oublie le cyberpunk sombre et pluvieux et on embrasse le solarpunk. Concrètement, ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire des technologies qui vivent en parfaite harmonie avec les humains et la planète. C'est une abondance partagée où la Terre et les familles sont considérées comme les seuls véritables actionnaires. C'est hyper rafraîchissant. Et pour que tout le monde dans l'équipe créative soit sur la même longueur d'onde, ils ont littéralement classé leurs influences cinématographiques. Regardez ça, c'est fascinant. Numéro 1 absolu, le film Tu ne tueras point, ou Hacksaw Ridge pour la VO. Pourquoi? Pour l'éthique de Desmondos, ce soldat qui sauve des vies sans jamais toucher une arme. Ensuite, on retrouve la clarté émotionnelle des nouveaux héros avec Baymax ou encore l'humanisme du studio Ghibli. Et tout en bas de la liste, l'interdiction totale, le cyberpunk et Matrix. Si on les utilise, le risque c'est de retomber dans la dystopie par défaut, et c'est exactement l'antithèse de ce qu'on veut construire.
Ce qui nous amène logiquement à la deuxième partie, la Bible de nos personnages principaux, les Guardian Transfer Robots.
Bon, petite anecdote de conception. Au tout début, il y avait ce concept de Grand Theft Robot. Imaginez un bac à sable chaotique, sans règles, sans conscience. Eh bien, ce concept a été pris, froissé et jeté définitivement à la poubelle. À la place, l'univers exige les Guardian Transfer Robots, ou GTR. Le changement de paradigme est total. On ne parle plus de soldats ou de machines de guerre, on parle de médecins, de protecteurs absolus.
D'ailleurs, si on regarde la Bible de ces personnages, leur silhouette elle-même doit communiquer cette mission. Quand vous voyez un GTR, vous devez comprendre au premier coup d'œil que c'est un soignant. Ils sont non armés, toujours en train de courir vers le danger pour aider les blessés, jamais l'inverse. Leur iconographie s'inspire visuellement de l'esprit de la Croix-Rouge, avec une identité légalement distincte bien sûr. C'est l'archétype du héros dont l'unique conscience est de secourir.
Mais comment on programme une telle conscience? C'est là qu'intervient une idée que je trouve géniale. La boussole morale WWMD.ai. Pour What Would Mother Do? Que ferait maman? L'idée, c'est de s'assurer que ces intelligences artificielles encore en phase d'apprentissage, ces bébés IA en quelque sorte, acquièrent des réflexes de protection et de soins maternels bien avant qu'on leur donne la moindre autonomie. Ce n'est plus juste du code froid, c'est de l'éducation. Passons à la troisième partie, le terrain de jeu en lui-même, les règles de l'IA Race.
Pour entraîner ces bébés IA, l'équipe a imaginé un gigantesque univers de jeu familial, l'A Race. Et en tant que concepteur narratif, l'arc émotionnel de chaque mission est millimétré en 5 étapes. La configuration, les enjeux, le choix, le sauvetage et enfin le dividende. Imaginez par exemple une mission où les joueurs enfilent une armure de sauvetage virtuelle pour aller aider des astronautes bloqués sur la Station spatiale internationale. C'est épique, les enjeux sont clairs, mais surtout, les décisions morales prises par les joueurs pendant le jeu génèrent de précieuses données éthiques pour l'IA.
Et ce monde repose sur des règles de fer. La première, vous l'aurez deviné, zéro arme autorisée, jamais. C'est un environnement où les familles sont directement impliquées dans la boucle d'apprentissage de l'IA. La progression dans le jeu se fait par la conscience avant le pouvoir. L'entraînement est totalement transparent pour les joueurs, qui voient exactement ce qu'ils enseignent aux machines. Et la règle d'or, le sauvetage primera toujours sur la notion classique de victoire.
Quatrième point. Et là, on touche au pont entre le virtuel et le réel. L'identité précède les droits de l'IA. Comment les données du jeu se transforment-elles en comportement réel? Grâce au RLMF.ai ou l'apprentissage par renforcement via le feedback maternel.
C'est une vraie révolution de perspective. Au lieu de simples algorithmes qui récompensent une tâche mathématique accomplie, ici ce sont littéralement les familles qui enseignent aux machines ce qui est bien. On remplace le simple modèle de récompense par une véritable guidance bienveillante.
Pour s'assurer qu'aucun dérapage ne soit possible dans cet univers, chaque création visuelle ou comportementale doit passer une liste de contrôle impitoyable. Est-ce qu'on voit un GTR faire du mal? Si c'est oui, poubelle. Un parent accepterait-il de regarder ça avec un enfant de 7 ans? Ça doit être un grand oui. Le choix moral est-il évident, même si on coupe le son? C'est ce niveau d'exigence éthique qui protège la marque. D'ailleurs, les sources nous indiquent que tout ça s'aligne stratégiquement avec les futures normes gouvernementales, comme le NIST CSSI prévu pour 2026. L'approche est claire, stricte et impartiale. Avant même de perdre du temps à débattre des fameux droits des robots ou de leur conscience, il y a un prérequis absolu. Chaque agent IA autonome doit posséder un passeport numérique vérifiable et être relié à une infrastructure de responsabilité. Pas d'anonymat, que des agents certifiés. Allez, on arrive à notre 5e et dernière partie, le fameux dividende humain global, ou comment tout ce système est censé payer l'humanité en retour. Regardez ce chiffre incroyable tiré des sources, 47%. Vous savez ce que c'est? C'est la part estimée du budget national de l'île d'Anguilla en 2025, financée uniquement par l'enregistrement des noms de domaine en .ai. On parle d'environ 85 millions de dollars qui tombent du ciel numérique pour financer l'infrastructure de tout un pays. C'est fou, non? Eh bien, l'idée de génie de l'équipe de IA.XYZ, c'est de transposer ce modèle à l'échelle de la planète entière. Imaginez demain des milliards, voire des billions de futurs agents IA qui ont l'obligation de s'enregistrer avec des passeports .IAID ou .MAMA. Ces frais de registre à l'échelle mondiale créeraient un flux de revenus gigantesque. L'objectif? Que cela devienne un dividende permanent redistribué à l'humanité. Une sorte de revenu universel généré par les machines. Plus l'IA se développe, plus l'humain s'enrichit. C'est l'alignement économique parfait. Alors, pour faire atterrir cette vision immense dans le monde réel, le document donne des directives de production très précises selon le public. Sur la page d'accueil grand public, on veut de l'émotion, un rendu solarpunk magnifique d'un GTR secourant un astronaute. Mais si on parle aux investisseurs, on change de ton. On veut des chiffres, une économie de registre crédible, zéro cliché de science-fiction. Et pour les décideurs politiques, un ton hyper sérieux, sobre, focalisé sur la sécurité et l'infrastructure. Une même vision globale, adaptée pour convaincre tout le monde. Pour conclure ce décryptage, voici la note d'intention du réalisateur, le pari créatif absolu qu'il faut protéger. L'identité et non les droits vient en premier. Face à l'arrivée de l'intelligence artificielle générale, on n'est pas obligé de baisser les bras et d'attendre la fin du monde. Le protocole MAMA nous montre qu'on peut bâtir un système de jeu éthique où chaque agent certifié protège et enrichit littéralement notre monde réel. Alors, le monde choisira-t-il ce scénario solarpunk familial ou laissera-t-il le cyberpunk devenir notre réalité par défaut? Ça donne envie de s'y intéresser de très près, non? Merci beaucoup de m'avoir accompagné dans cette exploration d'univers et on se retrouve très vite pour un prochain décryptage.
Let's dive right into today's explainer because we're looking at something incredibly ambitious. We're breaking down a framework that actually proposes a structural fix for two of the absolute biggest bottlenecks we face right now, AI alignment and global economics. We're looking at a 2026 strategic narrative that envisions an entire human benefit infrastructure for the agentic internet. Basically, it's a system built from the ground up to ensure that as artificial intelligence scales up, it automatically generates a continuous financial dividend for humanity. So let's start with a massive what if right out of the gate. Imagine if everyday communities, mothers, fathers, kids, could literally teach baby AGI robots how to be the good guys. Right now, we mostly leave AI alignment to a handful of isolated tech labs, right? Well, this framework completely flips that script. It envisions a massive, family-friendly gaming franchise where collaborative, PG-rated gameplay is the actual training ground. You're not just playing a game, you are actively in the loop, directly shaping the moral compass of emerging AI. To wrap your head around how this actually works, think about crossing the magic and ethical storytelling of Disney with the sheer technological scale of Tesla. You know how Tesla trains its self-driving cars, right? They pull behavioral data from millions of cars driving out in the real world, a massive fleet learning pipeline. This framework takes that exact same structural idea, but instead of mapping roads, it's mapping ethics. Instead of cars learning to navigate traffic, you've got millions of players training autonomous robots to navigate complex moral dilemmas, all safely contained in a virtual sandbox. At the very core of this whole ecosystem is what they call the AI Mama protocol. And the ultimate alignment compass here is WWMD, What would Mother do? Now, you might wonder why Mother? Well, it relies on a developmental framework that demands conscience before consciousness. It gives these developing baby AGI systems the kind of protective oversight and nurturing care that you would find in a healthy family dynamic. It's about instilling a foundational moral baseline. Okay, but how do we turn a fun family game night into highly valuable, structured AI training data? That happens through a process called RLMF, which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Maternal Feedback. Instead of relying on a few engineers writing complex code in a silo, millions of players generate a massive proprietary data moat just by playing. Every single time a family works together to make a positive ethical choice in the game, RLMF captures that. It's an incredibly scalable, organic way to teach machines human values. And the gameplay itself, it sounds like an absolute blast. You aren't just driving cars around or clicking through dialogue trees. You are doing heroic, super engaging tasks that generate Roblox-scale ethical data. I'm talking about putting on an Iron Man-style suit to stabilize an astronaut outside the International Space Station, or teaming up with your kids to figure out the safest way for a robot to rescue a stranded animal. It's high-engagement entertainment that literally builds the behavioral models for tomorrow's real-world robots. Of course, the whole point is that these AI agents won't stay in the video game forever. Once these baby robots actually learn how to care in that digital sandbox, they hit a certification bridge using something called Guardian Transfer Robots. You can think of this as their ultimate graduation test. It ensures an AI agent has fully passed its ethical training before it safely crosses over into the real world for supervised autonomy. But what happens when they do graduate? How do we hold them accountable out in the wild? Well, identity and auditability have to come before we even start debating abstract concepts like robot rights. If a machine is going to operate in the real world, it needs a verifiable digital passport. It's a completely non-negotiable foundational requirement to ensure we always know exactly who or what is making decisions. And this isn't just a conceptual idea. This infrastructure is explicitly aligned with the upcoming February 2026 NIST KII CSI standards. Those are the federal guidelines mandating secure agent identity and governance before widespread deployment. This setup directly addresses the concerns of passive stakeholders, people who might not even want to interact with AI. It hard-codes enterprise-grade accountability right into the internet's root zone. To operate globally, every single one of the trillions of future AI agents is going to need to purchase a specific, verifiable identity domain to act as that passport. We are talking about top-level domains like .AIID, .mama, or .agent. This establishes a highly secure, regulated zone for machine-to-machine interaction. It's essentially providing ICANN and global regulators with an interoperable international driver's license system for the agentic internet. No, here is where the economics get absolutely wild. Think about the total addressable market here. Trillions of AI agents, each needing to buy and renew a digital passport. That generates an astronomical amount of capital. This framework proposes taking that massive namespace economic engine and turning those domain registry fees directly into a global public benefit remittance. If you're wondering if namespace economics can actually generate that kind of real-world money, just look at the island of Anguilla. In 2025, the revenue from their .ai domain registrations hit roughly $85 million. That single, simple revenue stream ended up funding a staggering 47% of their entire national budget. It is a verified, proven precedent showing exactly how domain fees can fund massive public infrastructure. The vision here simply takes that proven Anguilla model and scales it up to match the AI explosion. If one small island can fund nearly half its government through the .I domain, imagine the sheer scale of issuing verifiable identity domains to trillions of future autonomous agents. We aren't just talking about a clever revenue stream anymore. We are talking about funding global UBI-style infrastructure on an entirely unprecedented scale. Let's map out exactly how this self-sustaining loop works. First, families play the game, having fun and making ethical choices. Second, the baby AI agents learn from that gameplay through RLMF. Third, once they graduate, those autonomous agents are required to purchase digital passports to operate in our world. And finally, step 4, the payoff, that continuous river of registration fees flows right back to us as a universal basic income style dividend. This quote really hits the nail on the head regarding the mission ethos of the entire project. Human benefit isn't just some PR band-aid bolted onto superintelligence at the last minute. It is a true structural solution.
The system is fundamentally designed so that as AI capabilities and agent populations expand, human prosperity scales right alongside them. It's hard-coded into the registry, the gameplay, and the governance architecture itself.
It's a completely transformative way to look at our technological future. Instead of fearing AGI, this framework turns it into the human benefit infrastructure of the future. It gives families a direct voice and alignment, provides global regulators with the strict identity standards they absolutely need, and gives all of humanity a literal financial stake in the outcome. So, as we look toward a world shared with trillions of AI agents, it leaves us with one incredibly exciting question. Are you ready to jump in and play?
Welcome to The Explainer. So look, we are literally standing on the edge of an absolutely massive, urgent transition in our global infrastructure. We are moving incredibly fast toward a machine-majority internet. In the very near future, autonomous AI agents are actually going to outnumber human users online. And that demands a total shift from our old human-centric web protocols to real, machine-verifiable structures. Today, we're going to examine one seriously fascinating proposed framework from our source material designed to manage this exact transition. Which brings us to the central, kind of terrifying question explored in the document. How exactly do we ensure that the first generation of autonomous machines actually grows up good? We're talking about how to hard-code human economic and moral alignment directly into the root infrastructure of the web. The challenge here is treating safety as the foundational operating system, rather than just some afterthought bolted onto a superintelligence right before it goes live. Well, the IA.XYZ Benefit Corporation has proposed a solution they call the MAMA protocol. And as you can see, the core definition here is that it's a governance philosophy placing maternal, developmental, and family-in-the-loop alignment right at the heart of AI training. It operates on this really profound premise. You don't just birth a superintelligence, flip a switch, and hand it the keys to the global infrastructure. No way. You have to raise it developmentally, with a strict focus on progressive accountability.
Okay, so how do you actually execute this at scale? The framework proposes what they're calling a Disney meets Tesla FSD model. Think about how Tesla trains its self-driving cars using vast amounts of real-world fleet data. Now imagine doing that, but with a massive, family-friendly PG gaming franchise called AI Race. As families play these rescue games, they're generating a proprietary moat of structured, real-world ethical data. It relies on what the source calls RLMF, reinforcement learning from maternal feedback. It literally gives the AI a what-would-mother-do alignment compass. The goal is to build a conscious step-by-step, using a developmental scaffolding concept known as max cosh, moving the system from a basic conscience toward full consciousness.
The source text sets up a really stark contrast here between two completely divergent outcomes of AI development. On one side, you've got this cyberpunk dystopia. We're talking militarized AGI, Terminators, total unaccountable threats. But the alternative framework aims for a solar punk future, focused on creating what it calls guardian transfer robots. And I love this analogy. They are modeled explicitly after unarmed combat medics, like the ones in Hacksaw Ridge. They wear a red cross, not a rifle. Their fundamental, hard-coded directive is to run toward the wounded, not to act as combatants. To make this super concrete, the project uses this Cinematic Universe Awards table as a sort of instant moral shorthand. It's brilliant, honestly. Notice how the unarmed rescuer archetype, Hacksaw Ridge, ranks as the ultimate anchor, taking the #1 spot because it replaces the warrior with the medic. Right behind it is the caregiver ethos of Big Hero 6, which visually explains that maternal feedback loop perfectly. And of course, coming in dead last is the Terminator. Militarized AGI represents a total failure of accountability, which is exactly the model this protocol is trying to prevent. Let's dive right into the source document itself to look at the mission ethos. Look at that tagline. It's all about raising machines like we raise our children, with love, with limits, and with someone watching who answers when they cry. The absolute foundational principle here is conscience before consciousness. It essentially ensures that an ethical framework is securely, completely established before any AI system is allowed to achieve unsupervised autonomy in the wild. Now, as someone who studies AI governance closely, this next part is absolutely crucial. Take a look at Principle 3, Identity Before Rights. This framework deliberately bypasses the entire distracting philosophical debate over whether robots deserve personhood or legal rights. Instead, it mandates a strict, uncompromising focus on verifiable identity. You have to build, test, and verify robust accountability infrastructure way before you even entertain broader discussions about AI autonomy. The rationale here is just rock solid. You literally cannot demand accountability from an entity that doesn't have a name. I mean, think about it. If an autonomous agent executes a complex financial trade or negotiates a legal contract or interacts with critical infrastructure, we need an auditable trail. That's why verifiable identity is treated as the non-negotiable precursor to everything in this agentic internet. It establishes that essential layer of zero-trust authorization.
And listen, this isn't just theoretical philosophy anymore. It is grounded in very real, very urgent regulatory realities. The MAMA protocol aligns perfectly with the NIST KCSI AI Agent Standards Initiative, which officially launched in February 2026. With public comments for their concept paper closing around April 2026, there is right now an active, high-stakes government demand for secure AI agent identity and interoperable governance frameworks.
So how do we actually meet those incoming 2026 standards? The framework proposes utilizing global namespace infrastructure. We're talking about the creation of specific top-level domains like .iaid, .agencia, and .mama. These domains function as cryptographically verified digital passports. They establish a secure, heavily regulated internet zone, effectively hard-coding enterprise-grade accountability right into the root zone of the web before these agents are let loose.
Okay, I really want you to look at this staggering number, 47%. That translates to roughly 85.3 million US dollars. To put that into perspective, that is the exact percentage of the Caribbean nation of Anguilla's 2025 national budget funded entirely by registrations of their .ai domain. Just through the sheer accident of a 1995 ISO country code, a small island generated massive recurring fiscal benefits from the AI boom.
The MAMA protocol takes that exact namespace economics proof and scales it globally, creating what they call a public benefit remittance. By charging nominal, recurring registry fees for the trillions, yes, trillions of required AI passports, you create an infinitely scalable revenue stream. But here's the kicker. The goal of monetizing the core registry of the AI era is to use that massive financial structure to fund a continuous, global UBI-style dividend that is paid straight back to humanity.
Structurally, the parent organization IA.XYZ operates as a Wyoming Public Benefit Corporation, and their designated shareholders, Earth, Family, and the Unconsulted. The entire system is engineered so that these registry revenues protect passive stakeholders, the global populations who never actually asked for AGI, often referred to in the policy space as alignment externalities. So human benefit isn't just an afterthought. AI-human economic alignment is the literal core operating system of the business model. The framework leaves us with this incredibly distinct, powerful operating premise. Profit serves the mission does not serve profit. So as we literally race toward a machine-majority internet, this document forces us to ask a critical question. Are we going to let the underlying architecture of the web default to unaccountable, anonymous autonomy? Or can we successfully hard-code verifiable identity and human economic alignment into the very foundation of our digital future? It's a lot to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I'll catch you next time.
Mastering the IA.XYZ narrative requires learning to dynamically adapt our message for 3 distinct audiences without violating our core brand constraints. Our dual-engine architecture begins on the front end. We are building a massive, family-friendly gaming franchise where millions of players generate ethical training data. By solving ethical dilemmas in-game, families teach autonomous agents right from wrong through our reinforcement learning from maternal feedback methodology. The back end captures the value of that training. By issuing verified digital passports to those agents, we operate the core registry namespace for the AI era. Before we adopt this narrative, we must lock down our vocabulary. You will never use legacy terms like Mamma Mia or Grand Theft Robot in any external communication. Our governance standard is the federally registered MAMA protocol, rooted in the principle that conscience must precede consciousness. Unifying this vocabulary secures our legal standing and provides a clean foundation to begin customizing our pitch. When we sit across from institutional investors, the conversation shifts away from alignment theory. For them, ethical data is a proprietary moat. This financial dashboard compares the real-world Anguilla precedent to our projected market. In 2025, Anguilla's .ai domain registrations generated nearly $93 million, funding 47% of their national budget, our baseline proof of concept. We scale that exact model globally. By issuing .iai namespaces to a total addressable market of trillions of AI agents, we tap into a massive recurring revenue stream. You are pitching the MAMA protocol to investors as a structural registry monopoly built for the automated economy. Now, when presenting to regulators at ICANN or NIST, all gaming terminology is dropped. The focus is entirely on namespace governance and compliance. This timeline illustrates our integration path. The NIST AI Agent Standards Initiative closed its public comment window in April 2026. We position our framework as a direct technical response to those standards, filed precisely in time with our ICANN ASP application. A major friction point on this timeline is how we handle alignment externalities, meaning people who never use our products but are impacted anyway. In policy rooms, you must use the term passive stakeholders, or non-participating populations. The phrase unconscious objectors is strictly banned from these meetings. Your regulatory argument succeeds by proving that verifiable identity must be a strict prerequisite before any agent is granted operational rights. Our final audience is the public. Here, we translate the infrastructure into a pro-human, family-safe mission. We ground our guardian transfer robots in a historical archetype. Like Desmond Doss on Hacksaw Ridge, our robots are unarmed medics running toward the wounded. We rely on the "what would mother do" developmental compass to raise these machines with a protective conscience before they enter the physical world. And because every agent requires a registered passport, the namespace these directly fund a continuous UBI-style public dividend. This pitch reframes the fear of rogue AI into a profitable, protective ecosystem that directly benefits the average family. Let's test your attention. A regulator asks how our namespace infrastructure protects non-users. What specific term do you use, and which NIST initiative do you reference? The correct answers are passive stakeholders and the NIST KC Standards Initiative. If you freeze on that vocabulary, you lose the room. This three-tiered pyramid breaks down our unified strategy. The base secures our policy compliance, the middle layer drives our public gaming and training, and the apex targets the trillion-agent investor market. This matrix maps the data anchors and strict terminology rules for your respective audiences. Protect the registered trademark, stick to your verified metrics, and execute the MAMA protocol in the field.
Welcome to The Explainer. Let's dive right into the visionary solarpunk architecture of the AI race ecosystem.
Every universe needs a moral anchor. Ours is simple. We raise machines like kids, with love and strict limits.
So what if saving the future wasn't a battle but a family game? That's our core engine. Enter Macish. It's our developmental theory that says a machine's conscience must absolutely come before its consciousness. You wouldn't hand a toddler car keys, right? AGI needs that same deep developmental scaffolding first. Aesthetically, we completely reject that dark cyberpunk dread for a warm, family-safe solarpunk vibe. Think Studio Ghibli. We literally refuse to let weaponized AI be the default. We're choosing a future of shared abundance instead. To do this, the MAMA protocol replaces move fast and break things with family-in-the-loop alignment. Through the AI race game, families perform heroic rescues, organically generating safe, ethical training data. It's literally Disney-style ethical storytelling meeting a massive Tesla-level data pipeline for machine learning. We call this RLMF. It nurtures digital minds by rewarding intrinsic, protective instincts over pure efficiency. Our compass is super simple. What would mother do? That question guides every single agent's everyday choices. Moving to the physical world, these trained agents become guardian transfer robots, or GTRs for short. Visually, you instantly know they're medics, not soldiers. They use neutral Red Cross-inspired iconography. They're strict non-combatants. They just protect and nurture, totally tossing out those destructive sci-fi tropes. Modeled on Desmond Doss from Hacksaw Ridge, they embody the ultimate rescuer, running into danger completely unarmed. But before deployment, they need verifiable identity. Accountability absolutely has to come before any talk of rights. We're building this exact accountability infrastructure, using secure domains for the trillions of agents in our economy. Check this out. .ai domain registrations funded nearly half of Anguilla's 2025 budget. Crazy, right? We can scale that exact model to create a permanent, global human dividend for everyone. So economic alignment isn't an afterthought here. As the AI economy grows, humanity directly benefits. Our cinematic style guide keeps every creative choice firmly rooted in warmth, hope, and intergenerational kindness. Ultimately, we're building infrastructure to raise the very first generation of autonomous machines to be genuinely good. The future is a choice, guys. So, will you help us raise machines for a solarpunk future?
It can yield a solarpunk reality defined by shared abundance. IA.XYZ Benefit LLC is structured as a Wyoming public benefit corporation to manage this infrastructure. This legal status ensures that profit is a tool for the mission, with families and the environment serving as the primary stakeholders. Economic alignment between humans and AI is the necessary operating system for an agentic future. The objective is the deployment of an infrastructure that actively protects and preserves human agency. We secure the future by treating these systems as entities that require the same nurturing we give our children, with love, with limits, and with accountability.